What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wrestle Recap. My name is Michelle Tate,
My name is Justin Tate.
and we are the only brother-sister duo that takes you on the journey of wrestling throughout the decades.
And we have a great time doing it. And it's because we're huge wrestling dorks. And I
That's a
think
good way to put it.
right off the top, we should tell them about the big announcement we put on Twitter earlier today. What do you think?
Yes, we are not having a baby because that would be a crime. Our big announcement, you tell them, Justin, you tell them.
Okay. We are going to Squared Circle Expo in Indianapolis next April. I am so excited.
I'm so excited. I'm very excited to meet all kinds of, potential listeners and stuff. But really, the wrestling fan of me is just like, I hope Sting is there.
Well, and the cool thing is we're not going as attendees. We're going as vendors. We're going to have our own special table right there at Squared Circle Expo in Indianapolis next April. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, which they just opened up on Friday, 2 days ago, get your tickets because this is one of the big wrestling conventions throughout the year, and we want to see you there.
Definitely. We'll have all kinds of goodies to give you. And yeah, we just want to meet you guys. So come and see us, please. But Justin, let's get into the current week of wrestling.
Let's do it.
We got to talk about, we lost one of the great ones this week, Justin. Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. He always changed his name, but it was always some, combination of something with Sid. But you had a personal experience with him once, right?
I did. I was back in the probably late 90s. I was going to a WCW house show at the Shap Center, not too far from my house here. And I'm driving through the parking lot outside of the arena trying to find somewhere to park. And I almost T-bone a car because I wasn't looking where I was going in the parking lot. And then I look in the car, and who's driving it? Sid Vicious. And who's his passenger? Rick Steiner. And what was the main event of the show that night? Sid Vicious versus Rick Steiner. It was pretty great.
That'll kill kayfabe for you. So was he mad? Did he look at you like, you stupid kid?
No, he just looked at it like, and then made sure that I wasn't going to keep going and kept going. Yeah. But when I realized who it was, I was like, he could have ripped me limb from limb because Sid used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Really? See, I was younger than you when he was like a big thing, and I just thought he was so cool. But maybe
man.
I don't know. All of them seem so zany and like out there for me because I was so young. So maybe that's why.
Maybe so. Maybe so. When he first came around the WWF and he was locked in that feud with Hulk Hogan, there was something about him. I was like, this is a big, dangerous. He was so intense. Everything he did was just like the intensity was just overflowing. And then he would have his little feud, and then he'd bye-bye for a little while. And you might see him again in the same company. You might see him in another company. And then he'd stick around for a little bit, and then he'd disappear again. It's like his whole career. But he was so good. And not even that he was that amazing of a wrestler, but just the personality just overflowed out of him.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely I don't remember him as an in-ring wrestler the way I will, others, but I just think of him kind of like MJF. He's a really good wrestler in the ring, but it's just his personality is what really elevates him. And that's kind of how I see it. It's kind of that aura, but it makes me really sad. I really hope they'll put him in the Hall of Fame. I wish it could have happened, before he passed away though.
Yeah. Well, just real quick to talk about his accomplishments. Sid was a 2-time WWF champion, also a 2-time WCW champion, a 1-time WCW United States champion. He had his last match in 2018, and actually his previous match that he had before that was on WWE Raw in 2011, 2012, when Heath Slater was out there being his big mouth self. And out of nowhere, no expectation of this at all, Sid just comes out and beats him in a match. Quick, 1, 2, 3. It was so great to see Sid again, and we're going to miss the big guy.
Yes, we will. Well, let's get into what happened at All In, Justin.
Yes, big show.
Huge show. Oh my gosh, it was so good, Justin. It was such a great show. Bryan Danielson is the new AEW World Champion. I kind of thought Swerve was going to win that, but you said what you said last week. Mariah May is the new AEW Women's World Champion, and Will Ospreay is the new AEW International Champion. So the top 3 biggest titles in the company all changed it All In. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, their biggest show of the year. I mean, the All In truly is. I mean, it's funny because for a while there, before they got the rights to the name All In, it kind of seemed like Double or Nothing was their big yearly event. And now All In, they go, well, All Out, which is another pay-per-view that's happening next weekend.
Well, and I mean, they announced that All In Texas is next year. I've already got my hotel. I already have it.
We might join you on that one. We'll see. We'll see. That's about a year away, but we very well could join you on that one. I mean, we've gone to Arlington on less than 24 hours notice to go to a World Series game. So it might happen.
And like, that's baseball. Like, wrestling's way more important to you than baseball. So come on now. We got to see Sting. Sting, came back, which I don't know how I felt about that because he hasn't been gone that long, but he didn't, well, I guess he did kind of wrestle in a way, but I will always be happy to see Sting. He's my favorite of all time. So yeah, let's talk about Bash in Berlin. We didn't have any titles change except for the women's tag team championship. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defeated Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I said that was happening, Justin.
I know. And it was, again, we've said it several times here because we've just been around while this has been happening, but these daytime pay-per-views, if every pay-per-view could be during the day on a Saturday, I said it last week, I will be the happiest wrestling fan ever because it's so great. Like, you get done, you're like, I got to watch wrestling in the middle of the day. Now I still get more of my day. It's great.
No, it was terrible. And let me tell you why, because I was watching college football all day yesterday. It's week 1. So I didn't even get to watch Bash in Berlin because sorry. The Texas Longhorns won 52-0, everybody. And so I was watching that go down.
Did they play the cheerleaders or what happened?
They actually played Colorado State, which not a great school, but at least it's not like University of Akron, Ohio, like Ohio State or someone played. I was like, are you kidding me? So at least it's a legit show, but that's my whole other world I'm talking about here.
Okay.
Real quick, Justin, we've got 2 pay-per-views coming up this week. We've got AEW All Out and NXT No Mercy. So I want to get your thoughts, some predictions here. I'll try to get through them quick since we've got to, but Chicago Street Fight, Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale at AEW All Out. Who do you have?
That one's tough. I'm going to go with Willow.
Really? I think I'm going to go with Chris.
No, I take that back. I'm going to go with Statlander because Willow's come out on top a lot here lately.
Yeah, that was my thinking. I feel like Willow is loved no matter what. And so Chris needs some stuff. This one's a little tougher. I have thoughts about it. MJF versus Daniel Garcia. Now, little bit of a precursor, little backstory here, Justin. As of this week, it is thought that Daniel Garcia re-signed with AEW, which that was kind of up in the air for a bit. It's not confirmed, but it is thought. And so maybe keep that in mind when you're thinking about this.
I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia here. You're not going to hurt MJF by having him lose to Daniel Garcia. It would be hard to hurt MJF. At this point, MJF would have to hurt himself because nothing's going to happen. So give Garcia the win. Let's do this. It's been a long time coming.
I think he's getting the win. Again, MJF won't be hurt or anything, especially because it's Daniel Garcia, because the crowd is just like begging AEW, like, push this guy. So I think with the whole re-signing and everything, I think it's coming. AEW International Championship. This was Will Ospreay versus Pac, which this match is going to like be incredible, but I'm going to go with Ospreay.
You going Ospreay? As much as I would like to see Pac win, Ospreay. Let's do it.
He just got it back. I mean, come on now. Come on. TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné versus Hikaru Shida.
It's got to be Mercedes, right? I mean, if Britt wasn't the one to beat her, if she beat Willow, if she's gone through all these, I mean, I don't think Shida is in the spot to beat her.
I don't think so either. And honestly, I'm like, who is at this point?
Yeah, right now it doesn't seem like anybody. Maybe Hater down the line, but right now she's in a thing with Saraya. So
I'm telling you, Tony Khan just needs to use all of his allowance money and buy Becky Lynch because that is the thing. However, you know what I did see? I did see that Mercedes and Megan the Stallion really want to have a match. And I'm like, if you put Megan the Stallion in a wrestling match on AEW, that would draw numbers, man. You're like, who's that? She's like a singer rapper.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh,
like,
you don't know who that is?
I'm like, I need to go to some independent shows. Apparently, I don't know this person.
No, she is like a big time, like A-list celebrity. It's not like Sexy Red, who you're like, who is that? Because
Okay.
I had no idea who that is. But no, Megan Thee Stallion, she's like a big deal. So that
Okay.
would be really good for AEW. Steel cage match with Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland. Is this their third match or fourth? But regardless, I think this is the feud that people are going to remember in 30 years from now from the early days of AEW. This is the Andre the Giant, the Hulk Hogan, the Ric Flair versus Harley. You know, that's what this is. So who do you think's winning that one?
You know, that's hard. I'm gonna have to go with Paige.
Really? How come?
Yeah. Well, if you just sign Swerve to a brand new deal, and you know that he's going to be around for at least, what is it, 5 years or something like that, that we know of anyway. Hangman Page, he was gone for so long, and while he is still kind of this new bad guy character, establish that more, make us hate him more, have him beat Swerve.
Yeah, you're right. And especially because he just got beat by, did Heyman get beat by Darby or was it Orange Cassidy? I can't remember which one, but I was really surprised. I think it was Darby. Yeah, I'll go with that. And I could almost see it being like a cheating situation or even a DQ situation. So Swerve isn't like not too far down. AW World Championship match, Bryan Danielson versus Jack Perry. Now, I know you were kind of like, Jack Perry, why? But it makes sense to me. It's an easy loss because everyone knows this first person's going to lose. He has a reason to be mad at Bryan Danielson because Bryan Danielson was on that discipline committee that sent him away and kind of made him the scapegoat in Jack's head. So I'm guessing you have Bryan Danielson winning this, right?
Yeah. I mean, why would Jack Perry be the one to end Bryan Danielson's career? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be something dirty. Maybe Christian Cage.
Oh my God, I love Christian, and I love that he won the casino gauntlet just because I just love everything about him, and he is so fit for his age, and like he has not skipped a beat. Oh, I just have so much respect for him. So NXT No Mercy. Now
That's tonight.
it is tonight. I know, and so we've got the NXT Tag Team Championship match: Chase U versus Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Ooh, what do you got?
Chase U just won those belts, so I don't see them dropping them automatically. And Nathan Frazier and Axiom had them for a long time, so why go backwards? Let's keep it going with Chase U.
I agree, just because Chase U is probably my favorite part of NXT. Now, I don't watch NXT as much as I probably should, or as much as you do anyway, but they're my favorites, so I'm going with them. NXT North American Championship match: Oba Femi versus Tony D'Angelo. I like Tony because he's like the mafia, like me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Tony just lost the Heritage Cup not too long ago. Obafemi, he is still undefeated on NXT, I believe. So, and he's a monster. He's so good. Like I love watching that guy. So I think you stick with him.
Me too. Now this one's a little trickier.
Ooh.
NXT Women's North American Championship match: Kalani Jordan versus Wendy Choo. Wendy Choo, she understands my soul. She's just so sleepy. I get it. I get it.
You know, and she's come back from her injury with kind of this new twist to everything, where she's like this, almost like a creepy doll nightmare sleepy thing.
It's a little Wyatt Six-ish, but it's fine.
Yeah. On the other side, Kalani Jordan, I was actually a bit surprised, not mad, but a bit surprised that she won that ladder match for the inaugural championship. I think it's time to move it to Wendy Choo.
Me too. We are on the same page with this, Justin.
Yeah.
I know. Hey, by the way, got to rub in your face that Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley won because you didn't have that. But I said that. NXT Women's Championship match: Roxanne Perez versus Jada Parker.
I have a theory.
Okay, give us your theory.
Pretty much unfounded. I don't have any more information than anybody else does. I think Roxanne's about to move to the main roster.
So you think she loses?
I think so.
I kind of have the same theory just because it's getting a little, I I don't want to say
Like,
stale. That's a harsh word.
how much more can she do in
Yeah.
NXT? Like, move her up, please.
Yeah. And, with Charlotte out and Becky gone, you need some woman power. So I
Yeah.
fully agree with you.
Yeah.
NXT Championship match, Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry with special ref Trick Williams. That's a fun little, not even a stipulation, but a fun little, curveball of the match. Who do you think's
Yeah.
winning that one?
Yeah, well, Joe Hendry, of course, he's one of the ones from TNA who's come over in their crossover. So I think it's pretty clear Ethan Page is probably winning, but how wild would it be if a TNA wrestler won the NXT championship? We almost saw it earlier this year with Jordan Grace going against Roxanne Perez, but that would be pretty wild. All that said, I think my money's on Ethan Page here.
The only way I see it ending up on Joe is if Trick helps him out a little bit, because Trick's like mad at Ethan Page. But yeah, I don't know, man, because here's the thing. TNA might be getting kind of annoyed that they're not getting as much back scratching as, with this partnership as NXT is. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'll go Ethan Page, but I reserve the right to change my mind at any moment.
In the next few hours before the pay-per-view.
Yes. So anyway, that is This Week in Wrestling. We had a lot to talk about today, but we got to hop in that time machine, Justin, because we got to go back.
Hang on, I gotta cover my ears. The time machine hurts them. They pop.
Oh no. Okay. Chew some gum and go. We made it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just gotta open your mouth real big.
I need
1980.
somebody to hold me. All right, let's get into it. WWF WrestleMania 3. Yeah, that's right. It's been talked about a lot, but not like this. The date was March 29th, 1987, from the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, Michigan. Unfortunately, the Silverdome was torn down in 2017. In fact, there's a great podcast called The Lapsed Fan. This podcast has been around for, probably at least 10 years. But on one of their episodes, they actually went and walked around the Silverdome shortly before it was demolished. It was kind of a sad thing, all the history there. The attendance for the show, as longtime wrestling fans will know, was around 78,000. Now, WWF famously claimed for decades that the paid attendance was 93,173, which began decades of claiming inflated crowd attendances for the WWF and WWE. But this it was legitimately around 78,000.
Okay, because this is a big deal. Because I remember when All In, the first All In, or actually it was the second, the Wembley show, they claimed 90 something and everyone was like, no, WrestleMania 3. But so this is a big point of contention around this.
Yeah, definitely. And it still continues to this day. You never really know, well, what does that exactly include? So the debate goes on. Our commentary for this show, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. It's a great team, and they're doing it again here. Now, the number one song on this day in 1987, March 29th, 1987. Oh, boy. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
It's from a group that was previously called something else, and then they were called something else, and then they became Starship. Nothing's Gonna Stop Us. Yeah. That's it. So
I could have listened to the entire song. We should have just played the whole thing, because that is a great tune.
Previously, Jefferson Airplane, then Jefferson Starship, and then just Starship. And I believe we also know, you did some research, the top toy of 1987.
Yes, we're into a new year, so we got to talk about that. It is Jenga.
That's so weird. Like, Jenga was around before that, right?
I mean, I think it was just, people with no technology just, putting sticks and pieces of wood on top of each other. But now it was official. But
we can't afford the original Nintendo, so here's some wooden blocks. Try not to knock them over.
Exactly. But it's a big thing now. You go to any bar, they have giant Jenga, and you've got drunk people playing. So it has stood the test of time, those little wooden blocks, Justin.
That's true. Can't argue it. Well, let's talk about the background for this show.
Yeah, sure. So since the last WrestleMania, the WWF has signed away so much of the talent from Jim Crockett Promotions and AWA. A Almost 1 million fans watched the event at the 160 closed circuit television locations in North America. So that's a lot. I wonder if that was kind of the first time they hit over 1 million for a quote pay-per-view. I don't know. Yeah.
Could be.
WrestleMania 3 set a pay-per-view revenue record of 10.3 million while drawing 1.6 million in ticket sales. And that's in 87, man. So that's like $5 billion today.
That's true. Well, we got more info heading into this, but I need a sound cue.
You need some
Wrestle Stats.
There you go.
There it is. There it is. The Wrestle Stats at twitter.com/WrestleStats. On this show, WrestleMania 3, we see 38 different wrestlers competing in one match or another. Out of those, 20 of those 38 are still with us today. That's about 52%, almost 53%. Pretty good. Pretty good for something that happened in 1987. Out of all the WWF pay-per-views that we've watched so far this year, that's 71 wrestlers, and out of those, 36 are still alive today. So now we're just above 50%. Kind of hurts a little bit. And then out of all the pay-per-views, WWF and NWA that we've watched on this show, that's 137 different wrestlers. 72 of them are still alive. So that's about 52.5%. How about that?
I think we need a new sound cue. And every time all the numbers are above 50%, we hear, I'm still standing. But if not, it'll just be a womp, 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 womp.
Yeah.
I'm adding that for next week. Watch me.
Yeah, right. All right. So we have 5 wrestlers on the show who we are never going to see again on any pay-per-view that we cover here on Wrestle Recap. One of them we've seen a few times now, Adrian Adonis. This is the last time we're going to see him. And then the other 4 are ones that we're only seeing on this show and then never again. That's the Haiti Kid, Little Beaver, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook. And I think by their names, you can figure out which match they're in. That's a lot of little. Anyway, let's get into the beginning of the show. You start this thing up on your Peacock machine, you're going to hear a sexy sax. Love the sexy sax. And 3D graphics.
Whoa.
We haven't seen this before. They're flying in all over the place. Shot of the stadium looks massive. Of course, we've seen that shot a million times. Very full, very well lit. Next level stuff we're seeing here. Vince McMahon, right there, dead center of the ring, welcomes us to WrestleMania 3, and Aretha Franklin, who sings America the Beautiful. Now, starting halfway through the song, we get random shots of blue-collar workers because those only exist in America, apparently. And I'm just looking at the crowd, and to me, nothing says America like a guy wearing rainbow suspenders with jeans and a T-shirt. He was right there in front row, and I liked him.
Fantastic.
He's my guy.
Repping the pride even in 87. Love it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or maybe just, I don't know, maybe he just liked rainbows. Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura introduced Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball himself, and Mary Hart as guest commentators for the show. Now, Mary Hart, she's known as the longtime host of Entertainment Tonight. And Bob Uecker, former baseball player who also, by chance, happened to star in the TV show Mr. Belvedere, if anybody watched that back in the day. Now, in a big change, the commentary booth is not down by the ring or near the entrance. It's actually up in a higher level of the stadium, and they're looking down at the ring. And one funny thing here, when they go to talk to the commentary team, Jesse Ventura is mouthing the words that Gorilla Monsoon is saying, and he does that a lot that I've noticed. So, yay.
Did you know that's a thing for people who can't hear very well? They will mouth what other people are saying.
Really?
I only know this because the Golden Bachelor did it, and it drove all of us fans nuts. And someone said it's for someone like that can't hear very well, and he does have hearing aids. And so I'm like, ugh. But I'm surprised that Jesse would do that, because I'm not saying it's unprofessional or anything. I would just think as such a professional, he would just know to like.
In the wrestling world, the place where I noticed it the most, and nobody talks about it, it seems like, but Stone Cold Steve Austin's famous Austin 3:16 speech, when he says, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. If you're looking at Michael Hayes or Doc Hendricks, whatever he's called at the time, you can see him mouth the words, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And I'm like, well, Steve said he came up with that like on the spot. So either Michael Hayes is psychic, or maybe that wasn't so impromptu. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, Justin, we get started with the tag team match. It is Bob Orton and the magnificent Morocco versus the Can-Am Connection. So Bob, I almost said Bob Horton. Who? Bob Orton was last seen on the WWF Wrestling Classic, and the magnificent Morocco was last seen at WrestleMania 2. So we just saw him. Who we haven't seen are these Can-Am Connection dudes. Now, I've heard these names. I just never knew that's what their team was. So we've got Rick Martel. He was born in 1956, so he's still with us at the age of 68. He debuted in 1973, and he had his final match at an indie show in 1999 in Hawaii. Lucky.
What a great place.
Wonder if Ricky Steamboat was there. He was one of the wrestlers that Vince hired away from AWA. So we're starting a big count of that. He gained even greater fame a few years later after this by turning heel and becoming the model Rick Martel. He later worked for WCW before leaving the business to work in real estate. Why would you do that? That's like the hardest job. Like,
I know, but apparently he's been like crazy successful at it and really does like no real wrestling stuff ever, conventions or interviews or anything.
that is crazy to me. I would like milk the crap out of that. Anyway, I'd be like, I was on WrestleMania. Like,
maybe we'll see him at Squared Circle Expo, where we have a table, by the way, Wrestle Recap and Wrestle Stats. I don't know if I mentioned that. Go on.
we'll interview him. Tom Zink. So he was born also, oh no, he was born in 1958, but he died just recently at the age of 59. Now, he debuted in 1984, and he had his last show in 1996 in Minnesota. So he was with all the Russians in Minnesota. If you've been listening to our shows up until now, he was another member of the group of Robbinsdale, Minnesota, like Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, and Nikita Koloff. So there you go. Before going into wrestling, he won numerous awards in the bodybuilding world. So it makes sense. You know, makes sense that kind of transition. Eventually left WWF due to a pay dispute and ended up spending about 5 years in WCW. I feel like that's going to be the first of many. Don't know why. But I mean, that's still going on today. People are mad that Swerve and Daniel Garcia got these big new deals. And I'm like, why are you so mad people are getting paid? I don't get it.
I'll take that deal. Give it to me.
I know, right? Well, right off the beginning of the match, Justin, we see him, the man, Mr. Fuji, eat it.
Nanners.
So right away, is this the first time, Justin, that we have the red, white, and blue ropes, or is it just so well lit that I can see it for the first time?
You know, it might be. I can't remember if they're on WrestleMania 2 or not. I want to say that they're all white back then, but I think so. I could be wrong. Yeah, but to me, this is the look of the ring on this show is the classic WWF ring look. You got the red, white, and blue ropes, the light blue canvas, and then the blue apron. One thing that I did notice that was different, and I don't know how long they kept this, but the ring steps to get into the ring, they're wooden steps on the side of the ring instead of the metal ones in two of the corners. I don't know what made them make that change. Maybe it was the ringside layout. Not sure.
Maybe it's kind of a weird material considering they get used in the matches a lot, but maybe they didn't back at WrestleMania 3. So right off the bat, Justin, this Can-Am connection, I'm calling them the Tidy Whitey twins because number one, they're in Tidy Whiteys, but also how are these guys? These guys aren't related at all, but they don't even look like, they look like twins, but they look like identical twins. They look so similar and familiar. You get familiar, but they look they're the same. And so I was shocked at that they're not related.
Yeah, at one point, one of them was in a submission hold, and I was like, "Is that Martel or is that Zink?" I can't tell. But speaking of related people, the referee for this match is Joey Morella, who is the son of Gorilla Monsoon, who's on commentary. How about that?
Gorilla reproduced?
Yes, he had a baby ape, and eats him bananas, and he actually chews them up in his mouth like a bird, and then spits them into Joey's mouth.
Nasty. That's nasty. So
banana and a beauty. Anyway, go on.
Banana and a beauty. So every time I see the magnificent Morocco, I see his name. I always want to say Mirasal because it's spelled like Curacao. Just a random little tidbit. But anyway, magnificent Morocco, he accidentally punched out Bob Orton. And thankfully, Bob kicked out of the pinfall attempt that was made because of that. And I'm like, my first thought was, is this going to cause conflict later? Like, are we going to get a feud between them now? Because it didn't seem to bother him that bad at the time, but we'll see. We'll see. But
we'll see. I do know that before Morocco's career is over, he does become a good guy, but I can't remember if it's soon or not. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, Martel gets that pin over the Morocco, and the Can-Am Connection wins in 5 minutes and 37 seconds. This is a fast-paced match, as you will see with most of the matches going forward. It was fun. I liked it. Backstage, Mean Gene is with Bobby Heenan, and then Hercules, he busts in to talk smack about Billy Jack Haynes. But Bobby, the only thing I got from this was Bobby, and he keeps insisting that his name is Billy Jerk Haynes, and he says it like 3 times. I'm like, okay, we got the joke. We got it, Bobby. We got it.
Yeah, no, I love Bobby. He's one of my favorites ever. Now, just like Junkyard Dog rather did on one of the previous pay-per-views when he was talking like he was actually a dog, Hercules is doing this interview as if he's actually Hercules from Greek mythology. Like he's referring to how he knew Atlas and all these other Greek gods. And it's a very odd choice. Like I don't think anybody, even a kid, was sitting there going, oh, that's the actual Hercules.
God. Well,
yeah.
My 90s kid self and Disney fan self just thinks of the Disney movie Hercules. And so I was like, why is he acting like the cartoon? That's so weird.
So let's get into their match. Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules. Now, this was kind of known as the Full Nelson Challenge. It wasn't like officially a rule of the match, but both of these guys had the Full Nelson as their finishing move. So a big part of the buildup was them putting the Full Nelson on each other and who had the strongest one as we went into this match.
Got it. Yeah. Well, the first thing I noticed, oh my God, this was probably my favorite thing I've ever seen. Okay. It's the ring cart. Okay. So basically what this thing is, everyone, if you haven't seen this, it's a little tiny version of the ring that's like built around a golf cart or something. And it drives the wrestler from the entrance all the way to the ring. And so at first I thought this was super funny because I thought this was just like Billy Jack Haynes' thing. Like he just rides a tiny ring to the, I didn't realize that everyone
was contract. I must ride a tiny wrestling ring all the way down.
Right. So I thought it was just his thing at first. I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then Hercules comes out on it. And so this ring cart, it's so silly because it's like they have to drive them when they're going to be doing so much more physical stuff in the ring. But Justin, I think we need to bring it back. The little ring on wheels, because we don't need these 5 to 7 minute entrances and all of the walking, because I mean, freaking Roman Reigns, oh my gosh, it takes him like 10 minutes to walk. We need to just pop him on a ring cart and let it take off.
I remember there was a WrestleMania just a few years ago where the aisleway was super, super long because they were in a big stadium. And they didn't make the ring cart like a known thing, but then of course fans have their cameras out or whatever. And so it would show like somebody making the beginning of their entrance, and then the camera would go somewhere else. And then they would hop on the back of some sort of car, which would speed them down the aisle to the ring really quick.
That's goofy, but hey, I liked it. Every time I saw that stupid little ring cart, it made me smile. So let's bring it back.
Well, and it was also fun to see 2 ring carts pass each other in the aisle as one's coming back and one's going down. Kind of like it was like an overhead shot of like some weird wrestling traffic copter.
Yeah, dude, it was like a drone, but not, because it was 1987. So question. I noticed when all the wrestlers get to the ring and it's time for them to, get out of the little tiny ring, get in the real one. There's these women in purple and white, and they, undo the ropes, and they're all really pretty. And then I think they referred to them as the Fedorettes. Who are these women?
I have no idea. No idea like who they really were. Or what, how long they stay around. But yeah, the Fedorettes, I guess, were just, I guess maybe because boxing has like the round card girls. Maybe this was their answer to that. I don't know.
So is WrestleMania 3 the only like show you remember them being on, or do they stick around?
That I remember, yes. But okay. I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Well, they were flashy.
Yeah, they were flashy, and they weren't the only flashy ones. Billy Jack Haynes, he's got a lot of sequins on for a cowboy. He comes out there looking like if you hung him above the Luxor in Las Vegas, we'd have a problem. But Also, Dave Hebner, he's the referee here. So he's here while Earl is still in the NWA that we know of. So again, that split that we talked about last week, eventually, obviously, Earl comes over to the WWF, but we'll figure out when that is because it's kind of a fun storyline that gets him over there.
It's probably like how Ricochet and Samantha Irvin feel right now. Like they
Maybe
get
so.
together and talk about the sames and differences.
Right.
Well, this was a meat match, Justin. These guys, they have no necks. It's just like head to shoulders. It's a triangle.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of slapping around going on in there. I'm actually meaty too. I'm like the ribs after you've already eaten all the meat off, and it's just like the bone before you sucked out the marrow.
Ew, yuck.
Yeah.
Well, golly, Justin, you're so skinny. Oh, what a horrible problem to have. Ooh, I can drink all the Coke and ice cream I want. Me.
Can't say.
Hercules is massive, dude. At one
Yeah.
point, it's after a pinfall attempt. He's on his knees and he looks at Dave Hebner and he is the same height on his knees as Dave. And I don't know if Dave Hebner is just like a small guy, but man, that was a great look.
Yeah, and he's so much more jacked here than like ever. Like the dude is seriously, he is busting out of his skin. Here's one that's kind of out there. There's a note I took, might be too obscure, might be wrong. I don't know. But do you remember back, like probably a little bit before the pandemic or during, the big thing on your phone was HQ Trivia, and you'd log in and try to win money playing trivia. Do you remember this?
Yeah, and I always lost and people cheated. And I remember the robots ruined it because all these bots got involved and it ruined the fun. But yeah, I remember.
Yeah, well, the longtime host of that, Scott Rogowski, I think that Hercules looks like a jacked up Scott Rogowski.
That is very obscure, but you are
Probably so. Probably
you're
so.
correct,
But
though. You're correct. I totally see it.
we should put a side by side on Twitter and tag Scott in it and just see what he thinks.
That's
Maybe he agrees.
idea. Yeah, let's do it. Well, right away, I was like, oh, I saw it on his butt. Oregon, remember? Because it was someone back in NWA who kept saying Oregon.
It might have been Billy Jack when he was with NWA.
Yeah. And so I was like, at least he finally switched his colors to match the university because I was very confused. But yo, I put in these notes like 5 days ago, I put, well, Oregon is ranked way too high in the AP polls, just FYI. They proved that yesterday. Just saying. Moving on to more wrestling news.
By the way, if we're getting off topic, Billy Jack Haynes, no change in his legal status right now. He's still charged with murder. But yes, going on. One thing that I did like on this, Bobby Heenan was on the outside, and instead of shouting, "Come on," or "Get him," or something, he's actually yelling technical advice to Hercules, saying, like when he's in the Phil Nelson, "Get those arms up," like he's actually helping. I really liked that.
We actually noticed that, and we thought that was back when like the managers actually provided like substance other than just being the hype man,
Right.
And we haven't really seen it. I mean, who knows what the hell Jimmy Hart is yelling in that megaphone? So maybe he's been yelling, good stuff too, and we just don't know it. Well, in this match, I saw an atomic drop, right? And I always thought, I was like, why is that allowed, but not a low blow? It doesn't make sense because it's basically a hit to the balls. So I Googled it, Justin, and apparently the atomic drop is actually meant to hurt the tailbone. But it's basically just a legal low blow because, come on, the balls are like this far from the tailbone. You're going to squish all of
There's
it.
actually a whole Twitter account that is Ravishing Rick Rude selling the atomic drop.
Really?
Because he sold it so often and so well that there's enough clips of him doing it. You can create a whole Twitter account out of it, basically.
That's funny. I had no idea.
But Hercules, he locks in the full Nelson, and then Billy Jack Haynes taps his hand. And of course, my modern brain is thinking, oh, he tapped out. Nope, there was no tap out back then. It wasn't until the 90s. But finally, the match spills to the outside. Billy locks on the full Nelson, but both men are counted out there in the middle of that full Nelson. Now, post-match, Hercules grabs his chain that he wore to the ring and blasts Billy Jack Haynes right in the head with it, causing him to bleed from the head. Pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So then my brain went to here. When did WWE become this anti-blood in matches? I mean, I know it was with the whole movement of like, this needs to be family friendly, but like, around what time? Because they seemed to like blood back then.
Yeah, I would say around there, or maybe when they went public. One of those two, but yeah, somewhere in there, somewhere in the 2000s. Yeah. But funniest part of this match, Hercules and Bobby Heenan, they get back on their little ring cart to take them back to the locker room, but it starts moving before they're ready, and they're holding on to anything. So both of them almost fall off while they're still getting their balance and everything. It was one of those moments that belongs on like a YouTube compilation of people falling down. I loved it.
Or America's Funniest Home Videos.
Ah, yes, which would have, I think that show started in 88. So that would have been the year after this. So good call. Good call. So that match ends in a double count out in just under 8 minutes. Now, ahead of the next match, here's an alert. We're starting a new WrestleStats count that starts with this match, okay? How many times, forgive me for using this word, it is used in a historical context only. How many times will the word midget be used on this broadcast? Take a guess.
The entire broadcast or just the upcoming match?
I think just the next 2 matches.
8. I'm going to go with 8.
8. Okay. All right. I'll let you know when we've hit the final one. Now, backstage, Mean Gene is with King Kong Bundy and 2 little people. Bundy says he's going to squash Hillbilly Jim's little people, and they'll have to pick them up with a platter, because I think he means spatula and couldn't think of it. It is King Kong Bundy. But anyway, let's get into this really weird match.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I thought, like, the way he said it, I knew what he meant. And so I think I heard spatula in my head because I just knew. Me and King Kong Bundy, we get it. We're on the same brainwave, Justin.
You should shave your head and your eyebrows.
I mean, I don't have great eyebrows anyway. They're fake. But so we've got the 6-man tag team match. We've got Haiti Kid, Hillbilly Jim, and Little Beaver. Every time I hear Beaver, it makes me giggle. Little Beaver versus King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo. These sound like a bunch of rappers. Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook. Now, disclaimer, y'all, Justin already touched on it. It happened. We can't and we won't erase it, but we can learn from it, which thankfully most have. But as a part of wrestling history, we've got to talk about it. So there you go.
It was a thing. So let's get into it.
There's going to be way worse that we're going to have to talk about later.
Yeah,
I'm sure more disclaimers are coming. But the Haiti Kid, he was born in 1954, and he's still with us at the grand old age of 70. He debuted in 71 and had his last show in 1994 in Cortland, Ohio. Where is that?
Next to Ohio.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
If he looks familiar, we saw him last year on WrestleMania 2, where he was in Mr. T's corner. Remember I said Mr. Lowercase T's? There you go. I've said there you go like 3 times in the last 10 seconds. Had a surprisingly vast career, traveling around to almost every major territory. He spent some time homeless in New York City, but was able to get things back on track. So good for him. That's impressive. Yeah. I know it's rough. Hillbilly Jim, we last saw him on WrestleMania 2, but we didn't give him a bio because it was just a battle royal. So he was born in 1952, and he's almost the same age as Little Haiti. He's 72 today, and he debuted in 1975, and his last match was at WWF WrestleMania 17.
That's right, the gimmick battle royal. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're only on WrestleMania 3, so this guy's got a big career. You know, seeing him like walk in, you wouldn't think like, that guy's going to be around for a long time. But he made his WWF debut by being a planted fan in the front row who just, decided to try his hand at wrestling. So that was fun. Did that just happen like on a random TV show?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on one of like the Madison Square Garden shows or something like that, yeah.
Right. He was also used to fill in for wrestlers who missed a show or like had suddenly left the company. And he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018. And he gave an absurdly long induction speech. They need to have an official like person who gets voted each year to pull away the long-winded ones.
Yeah, I remember, if I remember it right, he was the first one of the night, and it was like, oh boy, we are in for a long night here. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I mean, I get it. It's your moment and you have a lot of things you've been building up that you want to say for that moment. I get it. But do you know how long was it, like 10 minutes long or like 45 minutes long?
Somewhere in between, but closer to the 45 than the 10. Like,
Oh gosh.
seriously, at least 20, I would say.
They've got to give them a cap and be like, you have 15 minutes.
I
Go.
think they've started to, but yeah.
It'll be like in college or high school when they're like, you can have one index card and whatever you can fit on that index card is what. So you wrote very small. All right, Justin, we're talking about him. Little Beaver.
All right.
He was born in 1934. Holy moly, that's a long time ago. And he died in 1995 at the age of 61. He debuted in 1949, Justin. What?
Yeah.
But his last match was on this show, WrestleMania 3. In 1973, he won the PWI Midget Wrestler of the Year award. Ooh, I don't even know.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Wow. During the match, he received a back injury from King Kong Bundy's elbow drop, which forced him to retire. Oh,
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah,
King
and
Kong
I was
Bundy felt
watching
terrible.
for it, and you can see it plain as day. It's the thing that ends this match pretty much. And you just watch and you go, well, there went a career right there. It's crazy.
You know, King Kong Bundy felt terrible about that.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course.
and I mean, hello, he's giant compared. Anyway, in 2003, he was inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. So that's different than the WWE. But, you know, we last saw King Kong Bundy on WrestleMania 2. He was in the main event. So Little Tokyo, my favorite Japanese rapper right now, Little Tokyo. He was born in 1941 and he died just in 2011 around the age of 70. He debuted in 1972 and his last match was just at an independent show in 1998 in Wisconsin. But he also traveled to many territories from Dallas to the AWA and was on the final show put on by the ill-fated UWF, owned by the also ill-fated Herb Abrams.
Oh boy, if you haven't seen the Dark Side of the Ring about Herb Abrams and the UWF, it's one of the best episodes they ever did. My God, what a story that is.
It's one of the best episodes, but it's also one of the, oh my God.
Yeah, it's
like
wild.
Yeah, now I want to go watch it again. He held the NWA World Midget Championship 3 times.
Again, it was a thing. We didn't name it, they did.
Exactly. Lastly, Lord Littlebrook. He was born, holy moly, in 1929 on your
And
birthday.
what was his birthday?
It was January 3rd.
Who else has a January 3rd birthday?
It's you.
Yes, right. I'm Lord Taterbrook.
Well, he died in 2016. You know, a lot of really big celebrities left this world in 2016. We lost a lot of great ones. He's added to my list now. He debuted in 19...
by the way, I didn't die in 2016. I was just born January 3rd. I'm still here.
You are?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That time machine took it out of me, but
I know, right? I mean, I see ghosts. So, I could be, you're like Bruce Willis and I'm Haley Joel Osment and I only see you when no one else does. Yeah.
I'll take that.
Hey, Bruce Willis was schmexy in that movie. I will say, I love him. Where was I at now? Oh, okay. Lord Littlebrook. There we go. We got on a birthday tangent. So yeah, he passed away in 2016. His last match was in 1995 at an independent show in Las Vegas. That's a good way to go out, I think.
Hey, I'll take that. Yeah.
He was also a former NWA midget champion. I hate saying it. Before wrestling, he traveled as a circus clown, which we love because we love circuses. It's great.
Of course.
It's almost like a sister to wrestling. The performance.
Well, it is, and because a lot of circuses way back when, 100 years ago, wrestling was part of them, and you would see a match or even have a guy in the ring challenging people from the crowd to come in and have a match. So yeah, they're right there hand in hand.
Right. Well, he is an inductee into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. And Justin, you know what's so strange about this is I have had so many ads, probably 3 within the last year, where there are little people wrestling companies that come to West Texas and have these big shows at like these bars. And there's probably 20 people on their roster, or at least on the graphic that I see advertising it.
Yeah, you know what? Just a couple of weeks ago, my wife sent me a picture of a poster for one that was coming here. And then I tried to look up the name of the place where it was. Not only was this place not on Apple Maps, it was not on Google Maps, and it was not on Google itself.
I
So I
looked
don't know
that up
where they're
too.
holding these shows, but it's got to be a little bit sketchy if even Google doesn't know about it.
You know where I think it was? I think it's at that place that we went to, that other local indie show, the bad one. So we've got a few indie
Maybe.
companies in West Texas, and we went to this one show that was very bizarre. It had a lot of butt crack. But I think it's at that place and they renamed it.
Okay.
Maybe. But that
Okay.
place was pretty out there. And I've lived in Midland like 34 years, and even I didn't know that place existed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It was
pretty
out there.
crazy. But let's finally get into this match.
You know, you talked about the ring carts. One advantage to being a little person and being a wrestler, Little Beaver, he had enough room to do an entire war dance in the ring cart. And I'm not making that up to be funny. Like the thing's rolling down to the ring and he's doing a dance inside that tiny little ring.
It was very I mean, God, that ring cart, it just makes me laugh so hard. I don't know which one makes me laugh harder, Justin, the ring cart or Little Beaver. But anyway, someone on commentary, I think it was Bob Uecker, he says, they move so quick, it's hard to keep track of them. My goodness, dude. Like, they're people. Like,
they're not. Oh God. Well, you know, it's also Bob Uecker, I think, who he said, "I'm looking around. There's beaver everywhere. He's inside. He's outside. Come on."
okay, maybe
we
me
doing?
and Bob could be friends because he knew what he was doing with that. Was that a
Exactly.
thing back then? Did they call vagina beaver in the 80s? Because I don't know.
Yes, they
Okay,
did.
good
Yes.
to know. I don't know. That was just the thing that came later, but it was really funny to see all of the little people wrestlers like run between the legs of King Kong Bundy, because that was just a great. No one else can do that. And it was a great look because then King Kong Bundy's all stumped looking around like, where'd they go?
Yeah, you're right. But think about this. At last year's WrestleMania, King Kong Bundy was in the main event facing Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. And now he's doing this. Like, it makes me wonder, did he piss somebody off? Is it just the natural order of things that he fell down the card after Hogan beat him? I don't know. But boy, what a fall.
I mean, maybe it was because of how the main event was received. You and I were kind of both meh on it.
Yeah.
Maybe they tried to build him up and then it just didn't, he didn't hit like they wanted it to. So they knocked him back down. I don't know. But
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy does the elbow drop to Little Beaver, as we see. And yeah, that was the move, Justin. That was the move that hurt
There's
him.
one.
And you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't doing well. And after the ref calls for the disqualification because King Kong Bundy did a move on one of the little people, which is not allowed to do in this match, all four of the little people, even the ones on his team, gang up on him and chase him away from the ring. They were sticking up for their own there.
Well, good for them. Now, this just makes me want to see like a Satnam Singh versus like Leo Rush or Marco Stunt. Oh my God, that would be incredible. Or like Omos and Marco Stunt, which that'll never happen because WWE would never give Marco Stunt any kind of platform, but it would be a fun match to watch. So
I watched 20 seconds of it. Sure.
Well, that's all it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, it would basically be like body slam Marco Stunt, every bone in his body shatters and we're done.
Out. You'd have to scoop him up with a platter.
A platter. Well, yeah. Haiti Kid, Hillbilly Jim, and Little Beaver win by DQ in just 4 minutes and 24 seconds. So at this point in the pay-per-view, I'm loving it. These matches are quick, but they don't feel like they were, cut for time or anything. Like I feel like we're getting quality content. It's so fast-paced. And I love it. And I notice, so we go backstage, and at this point, I'm starting to notice the backstage segments are getting a little more pointless. Like there's less, it's kind of more to just introduce the next match, but they are shorter, which cuts down on the entire pay-per-view time, and it makes everything seem more fast-paced. So Miss Elizabeth and Mary Hart are backstage. Now, let me tell you, Justin, Mary Hart, you know where I recognized her from? I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, she was on Days of Our Lives.
Really?
Yeah, and I went look. She was on a few episodes. She was.
Wow.
Yeah,
I never would have known.
I know, and like that's the thing. Didn't remember her from Entertainment Tonight. Nothing, just Days of Our Lives. And I think it was more like later. I can't remember. I feel like it was more in the 2000s, maybe in the 2010s that she was on it. But I remembered her. I know my Days of Our Lives. Anyway, Miss Elizabeth and Mary Hart are backstage. Randy interrupts their conversation. Of course, man. However, he's talking with his back to the camera. And I've said this before, Justin. I am a theater kid and it kills me. But also, I couldn't understand what the hell he was saying because I couldn't even read his lips. Like, I would love to tell our listeners what he said, but I have no idea what he said.
He probably said that, between Mary Hart and Elizabeth, there was enough hairspray to like create a hole in the ozone layer above their heads because both of their hair was up. He was closer to God.
I was noticing that. I was like, man, we are really in the hair era of the 80s. Those bangs, man. Like the bangs are like, it's almost like they have mullets because their bangs are so large.
Yeah.
Well, Harley Race, the fabulous Moolah, and Bobby Heenan are backstage with Harley's crown. And this is another instance that I don't really know what was being said because I was so distracted by this, Justin. And you might want to go back and look at this because it comes up again. Harley just froze and he was staring off camera and he did not move for the greater part of this segment. Like he could have been a cardboard cutout. Like
wow.
He just like freezes and he's just
so I guess he was letting Moolah and Bobby or whoever like talk for him.
Yeah, but it looks strange because it's like everyone's looking into camera and then he's like got his head turned and he's just staring and he's completely still.
I didn't notice that. We mentioned on Starrcade 83, which is the last time we saw Harley Race. He looks and sounds like a guy you just don't mess with. Like if you're in a bar and you see him sitting there and you're in the mood to mess with somebody, you don't pick him. He's like, he seems like the guy who finishes a cigarette and then just like chews on the filter until his next cigarette like 5 minutes later.
Is that a thing? Do people do that?
I don't know, but I think Harley Race would.
I could see it.
But back to the commentary booth, Bob Uecker says he's got to get out of there so he can go meet up with Fabulous Moolah. So that's a goal that some people had.
Ugh.
Yeah. Anyway, we go on to the next match. It's a loser must kneel and bow match between Junkyard Dog and King Harley Race. Now, Harley Race is known as the King here because he had won the first ever WWF King of the Ring tournament. So after beating his opponents, he would make them kneel and bow before him. And after their match on Saturday night's main event, Junkyard Dog had refused to do so, which set up this match here tonight. Now, we last saw Junkyard Dog on WrestleMania 2. We've seen him a lot on these WWF pay-per-views. King Harley Race, like I just mentioned, we haven't seen him since Starrcade 1983 when he was in the main event with Ric Flair. So it's been a while on him. If you notice, when Harley came out to the ring for this match, he was using the same theme music that Jerry Lawler used for all of his years in the WWF. It's some actual classical music song managed by Bobby Heenan, who's out here for the second time tonight. So Bobby Heenan putting in a lot of work because he's out there for multiple matches here tonight.
Yeah, I'm seeing that with a lot of managers. And I think maybe we kind of talked about this last week, but yeah, you just don't see that today. You don't see the same guy, especially on a pay-per-view, like coming out more than once, at least on the manager side. But Harley had a really funny moment. And I'm starting to wonder, like, is this a character choice? Or was he like actually on drugs? Like, I just don't know what was happening from that backstage interview to now, but this made me laugh. Harley was standing on the edge of the apron and like looking down at Junkyard Dog. And then he just slowly like has this kind of goofy grin on his face and just falls forward and falls right onto the floor. And like, it was so slow that JYD obviously had time to move and he just falls flat on his face. And it was so funny. And I'm like, what is this? I was just so confused by Harley at this point.
Yeah, he was so great. He just had it. I don't know. It's it. I don't know. But, and you can even see like in the ring on this show, he's just a few years away from retirement, but he still moves well for his style. He never had that flashy, jumpy, fast style. It was that methodical, brawler, technical guy style, and he can still do it. It's a very conservative style, and it works for him.
Definitely. That kind of reminds me of how like Billy Gunn always says, like, I do stuff now, like I don't do anything that I couldn't do, when I was 20 or, basically where he's had this conservative style that has worked for him and given him such a long career because he's able to maintain it. But I don't know if you noticed it in this match. Maybe it had shown before and I just didn't notice it. There were giant Marlboro cigarette ads all over the arena. Did you notice that?
I did. I saw a couple of them up there. It's such a wild thing to even think about now because you don't see Marlboro advertisements like anywhere. It doesn't seem like.
Not many people smoke cigarettes anymore. We've talked about that before. Like they don't. And like now I feel like it would be like prescription drug ads everywhere, which is so weird to me, Justin. Why do we advertise medicine? It'll be like, it does this, this, and this, and it gives you all these side effects, but talk to your doctor. And I'm like, how about if I need the medicine, my doctor just knows to prescribe it to me?
Yeah, I'm kind of worried if the doctor didn't think about those drugs first. Like, why am I telling him?
And like the commercials are so expensive. I'm like, maybe we wouldn't have to pay so much for medicine if you'd quit buying these commercials. Anyway, that was my soapbox moment of the episode, everybody.
You know, we talked about the ring earlier in the show, but on this show, it seems like it's on a raised platform in the middle of the arena. Like it looks like there's about a foot step up from the floor, and then the ring is on top of that. Did you see that?
I did, and I wondered if that was to like make it so everyone could see better, maybe in such a big stadium. But then the people with the floor seats would have a harder time, and those are the expensive tickets. So
yeah, I don't know. But another thing I noticed on here, and I think I saw this on the previous WrestleMania, some of the cameramen down ringside, they're wearing a patch over one eye, and I guess that's so they don't have to squint one eye shut all night long while they look through the camera. Kind of a creative thing that I think you don't really see.
Yeah, because what's weird is I had actually noticed that. And I had noticed these guys, you know, squint their eye, and I had noticed like, man, that's gotta be hard. And like one day when you're old, you'll have all these wrinkles on this side of your face and not this one. But no, I think the patch was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, the finish comes here from a belly to belly suplex, and Harley Race gets the win in just over 4 minutes. Now, afterwards, Harley is sitting in a folding chair in the ring, wearing his king robe and his king crown. And as promised, because of the stipulations of the match, JYD, he bows down to the king, but then he grabs the chair and just nails Harley with it and steals his king robe and puts it on himself and then just rides the ring cart all the way back up the aisle, waving to the fans like a king. It was really kind of fun ending to the match.
It was, yeah. And you know, I was like, Hercules stole JYD's kind of chain gimmick, I feel, you know, back in then. But I loved when he just got in that ring cart and was like, go, full speed, away.
Well, Vince McMahon, after the match, is backstage interviewing Hulk Hogan. And the more of these Hulk Hogan backstage promos that we watch, the more you realize he's usually saying the same thing, just a little bit different. Like they don't, there's nothing new to them really, but you play the hits, and Hogan was playing the hits back then for sure. But he tells Andre that the purest truth there is that Andre doesn't just have to beat Hulk. He has to beat every Hulkamaniac in the world, which might take a while. I don't know, but let's go on to a tag team match.
Yes, let's do. We've got the Dream Team versus the Rougeau brothers. Rougeau.
My favorite salad dressing, Rougeau.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice like balsamic reduction or something. Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine, the Dream Team. We saw them both on the last WrestleMania 2, but Jacques Rougeau, what kind of, like, that is a fantastic name. I feel like I'm about to bust out into like Les Mis or something. He was born in 1916. He's still alive today at the age of 64. He debuted in 1977, and his last match was in 2011 at an indie show in, you guessed it, Canada. You may recognize Jacques from a gimmick that would come along just a few years after this, the Mountie, and later as half of the tag team, the Quebecers.
I hated the Mountie when I was a kid. Oh,
I did too. I remember that.
Him.
And he had the hat and why'd you hate him so much?
Electric shock stick thing that he'd shock people with. Yeah.
Did he scare you or did you just not
No,
like
I
him?
just thought he was a jackass.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, that means he was good at his job though.
True.
Yeah. So not only was his brother Raymond a wrestler, his father and uncle were also involved with the business. So after wrestling, he opened up a wrestling school and became a public speaker, traveling around to schools about like talking about drugs and smoking and bullying. So like, was he in the DARE program?
the Canadian Dare program. Oh, don't you dare. No,
Don't you
no.
dare. I like how he was like, hey, I'm going to go tell kids to not smoke. But then on this show, we've got Marlboro.
Of course. Yeah.
I love the Dare program. I still have a t-shirt. But then we've got Raymond Rougeau. He was, so he's the older brother. He's 5 years older than his brother, and he's still alive today at the age of 69. So those brothers are still kicking it. He debuted in 1971, and he had his last match in 2003. Guess where? Canada. I'm guessing.
Canada.
I'm like, did they? No, they didn't have. So the younger one, Jacques, he had his last match about 8 years after Raymond did. So
Yeah.
he stuck around a little bit longer. But after Raymond's his in-ring career, he became an interviewer on WWF TV. He eventually became a French language commentator for WWE. So this is cool because at least these guys really are like French and can speak French. It's not like all the Minnesotan Russians.
And you remember like pre-COVID when they would on the pay-per-views, they would go down the row of the international broadcasters that were there. And so it'd be like this person and this person from Russia. Well, Ray Rougeau was always at the French-Canadian table.
That is cool. I wonder why they quit doing that because of COVID.
I don't know. I always really liked that part. I thought it was cool.
It was cool, and it also kind of gave us a chance to see those old school wrestlers that like had a different cultural background.
Yeah.
But another fun fact about Ray Rougeau, he's the current mayor of Rodin, Quebec.
What?
Because every wrestler becomes a politician.
Apparently a teacher or a politician, one of the two.
So let's get to the match. I'm really starting to notice the gorilla-isms at this point. He says a fountain of misinformation. And so my question was, is he aware that he has these isms? Like, is he doing it on purpose to like make it his thing? Or is he not even aware and like people are just picking up on it?
I'm sure he's very aware because Gorilla Monsoon, he's a former wrestler, so he knows how to get over with fans. And if he keeps repeating these, they become his catchphrases. So yeah, I'm sure he knew it was his thing.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Now, speaking of commentary, Bobby Heenan joins commentary for this match, which is always a treat to listen to him. And it's funny, since the commentary booth, like we talked about, is up on another level of the arena, Heenan definitely sounded out of breath here from trying to run all the way up there to get there in time for this match.
I noticed that. And it was just, that was kind of a strange thing. I'll be curious to see going forward if they do that again. But I noticed they kept showing this camera angle from behind all of them so that you could see the ring like from their perspective. And I'm like, it's so far. Like, how are they able to like do their commentary? I'd be like, I need my glasses. I need a screen because it was really far away. But I thought it was kind of strange how during this match, the commentators started talking about the matches that have already happened. They talked about King Kong Bundy, Harley Race, and Junkyard Dog. And I guess I kind of saw it. I'm like, okay, they're kind of recapping the night. But that's not something that you do anymore. That's like a no-no. You don't talk about previous matches during the current match. So did you notice that they did that or no?
Yeah, I did. And it almost seems to, a lot of people, again, weren't watching this in their homes. They were at some location with closed circuit television. So maybe they're doing this to tell people who are just walking into said bar or theater or whatever, here's what you missed. That's the only thing I could figure from that one. But Gorilla also had this thing, kind of like a gorillism. I guess you could call it a gorillism, where he would refer to Brutus Beefcake as Brudeye. And throughout this entire match, Brudeye with the leg or whatever. Not sure where that started or why. Brother Brudeye, I don't know.
That is weird. I didn't even notice it. Well, Mr. Dino, he cheated.
Oh, Dino Bravo. Yeah, he was out there with the bad guys. I forgot about that.
Yep, he did. And he was just, I didn't know who he was because they didn't like mention his name really or anything. I was like, who is that? But Dino, he cheated when the ref wasn't looking to help the Dream Team win. But this is where it got kind of fun because Brutus wasn't happy about it. Like, he was mad that Dino like cheated for them. And so he stayed in the ring while everyone else got in the ring cart and like went off into the sunset and just kind of left Brutus Beefcake by himself. So I'm wondering, I'm like, is this the end of the Dream Team because Brutus has integrity?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to believe in somebody, it's got to be somebody named Brutus or believe in Joe Hendry as the music goes. But speaking of Brutus, his tights, They have patches of mesh on them where you can see straight through to his legs. Kind of reminds me of those, remember like there was those mesh shirts in the 90s that guys would wear?
Yeah.
Like some women would wear them too, but guys would like wear these mesh shirts that you could only get at a place like Gadzooks. Remember Gadzooks?
I love Gadzooks. They always had half a Volkswagen Beetle in there with stickers on it. That was a great one.
Yeah. Gadzooks was like where you would buy stuff that your parents wouldn't be caught dead in.
Yeah. I remember I bought one of those. It was almost like for lack of a better term, like a skull cap, and it had a smiley face on it. And that was the only thing I ever bought from Gadzooks because I was a kid and none of the clothes would fit me, but I sure to get that hat. But Justin,
like I would buy like button-up shirts like this, but they'd be fuzzy.
Oh, I remember all of your weird shirts. You had
and I get them from Gadzooks.
Yeah, I remember you had one that was like black velvet, but it was like a cheetah print, but like the spots were not velvet. And then you had like this one that was shiny and blue and looks like a fish. You had some interesting fashion choices, Justin.
I also had hair. So, things changed.
You had great hair. It was the mushroom bowl cut, but you were able to do this thing like I do all the time.
Yeah. Well,
well, Justin, the dream team wins that match.
I'm just gonna sit back and drink my water and cry.
Anyway, the dream team wins this match in 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Another quick one, but I'm very interested to see where this goes from here because Brutus was not happy. He was not.
Speaking of hair, we got a hair versus hair match.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, that's right. Adrian Adonis versus Rowdy Roddy Piper. Now, this whole match came about when Piper returned from his last hiatus after the last WrestleMania, and his WWF interview segment, Piper's Pit, had been replaced by Adrian Adonis's Flower Shop interview segment. So after being attacked by Adonis, Bob Orton, and Magnificent Morocco, Piper destroyed the Flower Shop with a baseball bat, which is what led to this match. Now, we last saw both of these guys last year on WrestleMania 2. This will be, as we said, the final time that we ever see Adrian Adonis here on the Wrestle Recap. Kind of a sad thing. Now, Adrian and Jimmy Hart, they ride to the ring on their ring cart, and Adrian has like those big hedge clippers, right?
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, well, wait, that was Brutus Beefcake's thing when he became the barber. And a few minutes later, we'll understand that.
Yes, we will. Well, I was always a big Roddy fan, but I love him anymore. Or I love him even more because Roddy didn't ride in the ring cart. No, he was like, I'm going to show how fit I am. I'm going to walk the 2 minutes to the ring. And I don't know. I would love to know his explanation of why he didn't ride in the ring cart. He was not speaking in a high pitched voice like last week. So I don't know what that was, but I wonder why. Do you have any idea why he chose to not ride in it?
I think just part of he's a hot rod. He's going to do his own thing. He's not going to take the easy way out. Now, during Roddy's entrance here, commentary mentions that this is Roddy's last match as he's going off to Hollywood. I will tell you right now, this is not the last time we will ever see Roddy Piper on pay-per-view. We will see him many more times, but the plan at the time was he was getting out of wrestling after this match.
So that was like a legitimate thing? Like that was his plan?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was like a story total kayfabe thing.
No, the plan, because he had been getting more Hollywood work and he wanted to go ahead and pursue that and maybe come back to wrestling here and there, never full time again. But right at this moment, we weren't going to see him again, at least for some time.
I wonder if this was before or after They Live. It's a horror movie.
I believe it's before.
Okay. Well, I've got a question. I feel a little bad asking it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Was Adrian Adonis always this large? Like he looks a lot larger.
Yeah, no, I think he had gotten bigger and bigger because you think about the first time we saw him on Wrestling Classic. I mean, he was pudgy, but he was like,
he was not obese.
No, he was obese here. It was like, wow. Yeah, very noticeable. There's a long sign in the crowd. I love this. One of those signs that stretches across multiple people. It says, "We will miss Hot Rod." And the crowd is like hot for Piper in this match. It is so much fun to just watch fans get into it like this.
Right. So at this point, was Hulk Hogan doing movies and stuff too, or was Roddy kind of the first to do that?
Yeah, I don't think Hogan was quite doing it yet. In fact, the first one that would come out was the one that was written and produced by the WWF, which was No Holds Barred, but that didn't come out until I think after this event.
Okay, well, I just think it's so strange that they acknowledged it. Like, oh, he's going to Hollywood. Like, they would never
Yeah,
do that on like WWE today, like ever.
right.
But okay, so question. What was that sprayer thing? What was it spraying? Because like Jimmy Hart, he sprayed Roddy in the face. What was that?
It's supposed to be, it's hard to know because Rick the Model Martel would use that he said it was his perfume called Arrogance. And that's what
Funny.
he would spray into people's faces. But I think that kind of sprayer was actually used for like bug spray way back
Okay.
when. So
Yeah, it
he
was
sprayed
weird.
something in the eyes of Roddy Piper.
Okay, it's probably just water, but hey,
Yeah.
Well, I bet the camera guys, I bet they hated Jimmy Hart because I just kept noticing, like, I noticed weird things like this. He was running around with those hedge clippers like up in the air. And I mean, he was running around so fast. And it's like every time he was in the way and the camera angle would change, he'd get in the way of that one too. So they just kept changing angles, but he's just running around.
He's got to be
lifting-
right there with that high pitched voice. I'm right over here now,
I know.
And that's the amazing thing about Jimmy Hart is that he wasn't trained as a wrestler. I mean, he's taking bump after bump in this match, and he's taken a lot of bumps before. So he kind of learned from being around the business, but he got into the business because his music career was winding down. This is a guy who legitimately had a #1 Billboard hit with his band, the Gentrys, way back in the day, and just happened upon the wrestling business in Memphis. And oddly enough, the two kind of converged because he ended up writing a lot of the entrance themes for both WWF and later WCW.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of Jimmy Hart written themes around this time. But finally, back to the match. Piper gets Adonis into a sleeper hold. Adrian's hand drops 3 times, meaning it is time to shave Adrian Adonis's beautiful locks.
We're back to that head shaving thing, man. It was such a thing in the 80s. It's just the back and forth. I don't know. I just think it's weird. But my question is, why was Brutus doing the shaving and not Roddy? Because, Brutus comes out, Roddy's holding down Jimmy with a foot on his head, which was a great visual. But that should be Brutus holding him down, right? And then Roddy goes and does the shaving.
Yeah, it's weird. And I guess maybe they knew that they were going with this whole Brutus the Barber beefcake gimmick after this. And so they said, well, let's have him do the head shaving so that there's a reason to call him the barber. I don't know. But after the head shaving is all done, which looked so painful because Adrian Adonis's hair was not coming off. Like,
No.
those shavers were not working, and they're just they must have scraped him up so bad. But it's a great bit because Roddy holds up a mirror and Adrian kind of turns around and looks at it, and then he punches the mirror almost like, whoa, who is that ugly guy? And then gets out of the ring. It was really kind of funny. Now, at this point, a random fan runs into the ring and hugs Roddy out of nowhere. And Roddy hugged him back, kind of looked a little bit confused, didn't look mad, just kept smiling and hugged him. And of course, the fan got tackled by security like immediately after. They're on a long shot, so it's kind of hard to see, but you can definitely see him get taken down in the middle of the ring.
I had to rewind it because at first I was like, wait, who is that? Like, who's interfering? And then I was like, well, and yeah, Roddy, his face is just kind of, okay,
Yeah.
let's just go with it. But I wonder where that fan is now. Like, who is that guy? We need to have him on the show because I want to know what he was thinking. Or was he just like paid $20 by Vince to like get like a rise, like a PR stunt?
I don't know, but I would love to know who that is because there is some guy out there right now, assuming he's still alive, saying, oh yeah, I ran into the ring after Roddy Piper's last match at Mania 3. And then his buddies are like, that ended up not being his last match. He's like,
His name's got to be on Reddit somewhere.
Maybe so. But also fun to see after the match, Roddy gets out of the ring and he's greeted by 3 of the backstage road agents who are former wrestlers, Arnie Scotland, Blackjack Mulligan, and Pat Patterson. So much like today, where they use former wrestlers as backstage agents, they were doing it all the way back here.
Excellent. Well, cool. Well, Roddy wins that one in 6:54. So let's go to the 6-man tag team match with the British Bulldogs and Tito Santana versus the Hart Foundation. Dun, dun, dun. So back in January of this year, the Hart Foundation defeated the British Bulldogs for the WWF World Tag Team Championship, but they had the help of a crooked referee, Danny Davis. So Tito Santana was included in this match as Danny Davis had been the referee when Tito lost the Intercontinental Championship to Randy Savage. So most of these guys, Davey Boy Smith, Dynamite Kid, and Tito Santana, we all saw in WWF WrestleMania 2. So if you want to hear something about them, go back to that episode. But I'm so honored I get to be the one to talk about Bret Hart. So we saw him on WWF's WrestleMania 2, but he was just in the Battle Royal, so he didn't get a bio. So that's why. And he wasn't really featured. He was just kind of one of the random guys in that super full ring, right?
Yeah.
So Bret Hart was born on July 2nd, 1957, and he is still super alive and kicking at the age of 67. So he debuted in 1976, and his last match was on Raw in 2011 in Ontario. He's the son of Stu Hart and part of the infamous Hart family of wrestlers. He started wrestling by selling programs at his father's wrestling promotion, Stampede Wrestling, and he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006. Now, I remember him popping up on AEW in the very early days, and we haven't really seen much of him since on TV or anything, but he's gotten very vocal in his mature age, and he does not care. He has no filter, and I love him. I know you got to meet him, right? He came to town for something.
He came to down for I think an independent show or something, and he was stopping by the radio station that I used to work for, and my old boss there actually texted me and said, "Hey, we got Bret Hart coming here." I was like, "If I show up like right now, can I meet him?" And he's like, "Get in here." So I drove like the 15 minutes down the highway to go meet Bret Hart. Yeah.
I remember that picture. We need to post it on the Twitter. You're like
I need to find it somewhere.
Kid, but you're like 35 and you're like, well, that's Bret Hart. Now let's talk about this Danny Davis. He's still alive today at the age of 68. He debuted back in 79. Now his last match was in 2013 at an independent show in Derry, New Hampshire. I didn't even know there was a Derry. I was thinking Derry, Maine, like the whole Stephen King genre.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
you know, that's just my horror mind. Horror, not horror. So although he was mostly known as a referee before this storyline, he had actually been wrestling in the company since the early 1970s, but he was always under a mask, and he was known as like Mr. X. So that was him. After spending years after this match wrestling occasionally, he went back to a referee role for the WWF until about 1995. But he made a backstage cameo at WrestleMania 30, complete in his ref shirt. So
gotta love that. And this was, I mean, it was such a great storyline because he was a crooked ref. And how do you get past a crooked ref? Well, you make him a wrestler, and then people will love to see the referee get his ass kicked, because how many times have you been watching baseball or football or something and gone, "Oh my God, this ref sucks." Now you get to watch him get the crap beat out of him.
Bro, college football star this week. I'm there. I've already seen some sucky ref moments, and I'm so mad. And it always makes me laugh. Like, there was a video last year that went viral because there's a ref, and I guess he was just kind of running backwards, and he just completely busted. And he's laughing too. But oh my God, it was the white hat and everything. It was the lead ref right on camera, just busted. So funny. Well, let's talk about Jim Neidhart. Now, we kind of talked about him during WrestleMania 2 because he was also in that Battle Royale, and I kind of mentioned that he is Natalia's dad. He's born 1955, and he just died in 2018 at the age of 63. So he debuted in 1978, and his last match was just 2 years before his death at an independent show in Pennsylvania. So, as I said, he's part of the extended Hart wrestling family, and he married Bret Hart's sister, Ellie. Cool. In high school, he set records in shot put and eventually played preseason games for the Oakland Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys.
How about that? And he was a bull of a man. I mean, like Stu Hart used to refer to him as a rhino. he'd be like, "Hey, how about you get some matches for the Rhino there?" And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, maybe I think that was the last time the Dallas Cowboys actually won something. So hey,
Oh,
oh, whoa,
internet
fighting words.
at Michelle Tater on Twitter. Internet,
Hey,
go
you
ahead.
know what? It's always funny. These men come at me thinking I don't know football and they try to like talk crap and then I school them and they're like, oh crap. And then they're like, oh my God, a girl that likes football. I love her. As I said, he is the father of current WWE. I'm gonna say superstar Natalia because she is so we all make fun of her because like, oh, she cries, but she'll take some losses, but like she seems like the type that you want in that locker room. Like she seems so knowledgeable and like such a valuable asset to the
And
company.
even still trains wrestlers at her home
That's
and
crazy.
invites people from like WWE, AEW, the independents, says, "Come on over, let's work out together in the ring." Like
What a cool
you can't
girl.
can't beat that.
Yeah, well, let's get into the match. The British Bulldogs had this cute little bulldog named Matilda. How cute was that? And like, it reminds me on All In, Mercedes Moné came out in this carriage and she had all of these corgis. Oh my God, I
Oh,
love
really?
corgis. Oh yeah, she had all of these corgis and she was like, these aren't just regular corgis. These are all related to the Queen's corgis.
Oh
And like,
boy.
it was fantastic. So seeing the dog, we need more dogs in wrestling. But yeah, they had this cute little bulldog named Matilda. She was kind of their mascot. Pretty cool. So Jimmy Hart is back. We see him again in this match, but Justin, he's got the megaphone this time.
Oh, good Lord. Not the megaphone. Well, and to combine the two, when Matilda, they put her in the ring and she immediately went to attack Jimmy Hart. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was how they made it happen, but it was great because she just like cleared the ring. It was so good.
Oh yeah, I have to think that's not intentional because I feel like there's no way you could make that happen. I mean, if it's like a police dog, sure, but it's a bulldog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
great
it
moment.
was a fun visual.
Oh yeah. Well, match gets going. Danny is just trolling the British Bulldogs. He'll come in for like one little small move and then tag out. And
Yeah.
eventually he gets his butt kicked by Tito. And like he's not even close to being able to get, a tag out of the ring. So he's just getting his butt kicked. I loved it.
And that those were the moments when the crowd was the most into this match was all the heel crap with Danny Davis. It was so good. Now, unlike last year, the Hart Foundation is not in blue and black. Now they're in their traditional pink and black, which you'll still see on Natalia today. But as fun as this was, Mary Hart was killing me on commentary in this match.
Yeah, she
Like
she doesn't know wrestling that well.
we talked about last year when it was like Elvira and whoever else was on commentary, like, oh, it's so bad. I think this is worse because like she literally asked Gorilla how a tag team match works. Like, what's going on here? How does this work? And then like on a clothesline, she said, that's called a clothesline, right? We have to stop with this. This is find something else for celebrities to do, not commentary.
Well, and I don't know how Gorilla and Jesse like handle this. Like you would think after last year they would have been like, "Yo, Vince, like you can't do this to us, brother. Like put an old wrestler on commentary or something. That's what
Yeah,
works. If it's not Snoop Dogg, then it needs to be a wrestler. That's the rule for
I
me."
think so. I'm going to write Triple H a letter right now.
Exactly. And he's going to
Yeah.
read it too, Justin. Well, chaos ensues and Danny is the one that gets the pin.
How about that? How about that?
I
Now,
was
this
surprised.
continues Tito Santana's losing streak at WrestleMania. So he won at the first WrestleMania, and then he would lose at the following like 8 or 9 WrestleManias before he retired. So, spoiler alert, if we ever do a WrestleMania and we say Tito Santana, you already know how the match is going to end.
Why did he lose so much? Like, did he make someone mad? Like, how
I
sad
don't
is
think
it
so. I
when
think,
it's like WWF or like, who did he make mad?
yeah, right, right.
Yeah, well, the Hart Foundation, they did win in 8 minutes, 52 seconds, and it was the longest match of the night so far. Been
Which
talking
we
about
talked
that.
about the pacing of this show, and
Mhm.
that proves it. 8:52 is the longest match so far.
But I loved it, Justin. I
Yeah,
loved it
yeah.
because you can get more talent into the show. You know, there are those like amazing matches like Swerve and Bryan Danielson. It was incredible. I need to see that longer. But as for these smaller matches, we don't need 25 minutes out of everybody.
Mhm.
I understand why they do it, but I'm loving this pacing. But we go backstage. Mean Gene, Bobby Heenan, and Andre the Giant are backstage. Okay, Justin, this has become a thing. Andre did not move the entire time. He had a fixed gaze, slightly off camera, and he did not move. So I'm like, is this a thing now? Like, were they saving money and not like using talent? So they just use these cardboard cutouts. And then I thought maybe it was like they were trying to make it a look where they're just like this tough guy getting focused and their managers are doing the talking for them. But it was so distracting. How did you not notice this, Justin?
Well, I did with Andre, and it made me think like before he became a bad guy, he was the guy always smiling and waving at the fans and cutting up with the interviewer and everything. So I guess maybe it was part of the thing with him now being a bad guy that he is now just stoic, doesn't care. And we'll see a little bit more of that in the main event here tonight. Bobby does say here in this interview that Andre the Giant has spent the past 15 years undefeated. Now, without the internet, that's believable. You look at this guy, yeah, of course nobody's going to beat him. With the internet, we know that not only was Andre not undefeated, he had also been beaten by Hulk Hogan before, and he had been body slammed by Hulk before, and several other people had body slammed Andre before. But again, we're in an earlier age. You could get away with that, and that's kind of the charm of why we're watching these old ones.
I kind of miss the days without internet. Like I would much rather have the internet than not, but I kind of wish we had like 1995 internet where like the peak of social media was like the AOL chat rooms.
Right. Yeah. It was the
80s.
wild, wild west when we first got the internet around the world. It was like, there was no like worry about copyrights or cookies or any of this stuff. It was just get on there and say some stuff and see if other people like it. That's it.
Message boards, Justin. Message boards.
I still
Those
go
were
to a
great.
couple actually that I've been going to since like college, something
It's
like
called
that.
Reddit.
Well, yeah, right. Same thing, right? So let's go to the next match. It's a singles match. Butch Reed, the Natural, versus Coco Beware. Two guys who I don't believe we've seen on our pay-per-view journey here. So let's talk about him. Butch Reed, born July 11th, 1954, died just a couple years ago at the age of 66. Finished his career in 2013 in Illinois. Now, he had the first ever Dave Meltzer 5-star match when he faced Ric Flair in 1982. So everybody talks about the Meltzer star ratings. It's a system that was originally made by Jim Cornette and his friend, and then Dave Meltzer adopted it. It started as 4 stars, then became 5 stars with Butch Reed and Ric Flair. How about that?
So did sorry to interrupt. So did Dave Meltzer call it a 5-star match in 82, or is this a look back? Dang, Dave Meltzer old. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no, Meltzer's been doing this a long time. So along with Ron Simmons, Butch Reed was part of the tag team Doom in WCW, which they had a fun little run in the early 90s. And after wrestling, Butch Reed worked on the rodeo circuit.
So it's kind of like the circus, but rodeo.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a circus where the animals really don't want to be there. And then we go to Coco Beware on the other side of the ring. Still with us today at the age of 66 years old. Just had his final match a few years ago in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Wonder if the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company sponsored that show.
I hate The Office. Internet
well.
that, Justin. Twitter that, Michelle Tater. Well, I'll argue with that. That is a man show. I don't get the humor. I don't understand why that show is funny. Y'all come at me. I know I'm going to get some text messages because of this, but
yeah, right. Coco was best known for bringing his blue and yellow macaw Frankie to the ring for his matches, and he was actually fired. Coco was, not Frankie,
oh, I was like,
from the WWF in 1989 over an altercation he had with an executive at the company, but he was rehired like a month later. It was really nothing, more like a suspension. But he has the distinction of being in the first ever match on the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw in a loss to Yokozuna. And I remember when that show first started, I remember watching the first episode of Raw and be like, Coco Beware, and he's dead. Like Yokozuna just crushed him. But yeah, let's get into the match.
Yeah, right away, Butch, he looks like he belongs in the bloodline. And I don't know if it's like the Rikishi Solo Sikoa look with like the bleached hair and the tan skin. But I mean, Yokozuna, he wasn't Japanese, right? Wasn't he like in the same sort of bloodline as, Roman and everyone? So I don't know. Maybe Butch was supposed to be in the bloodline. We don't know.
right? You never know. The bleached hair. I
Mhm.
at one point I was in the bloodline. I had bleached hair.
Yeah, but
So,
you're not
you know,
tan. You don't have
that's
dark
true. That's
skin.
true. Jesse's commentary during this match did not age well.
No.
He refers to Coco Beware's two friends, Buckwheat and Stymie. For those who don't know, that's a reference to the Little Rascals from decades and decades ago. And Buckwheat and Stymie were two of them, and not a great thing to say. Let's just leave it
Jesse,
at that.
we need a no, non-PC wrestle stats count that just
Right.
encompasses
Oh,
everything.
I
You didn't
forgot.
tell me.
I forgot to cut it off. The Rassle stats
M-word.
M-word count 11.
11. I was closer than I've been in the past on your counts.
Yeah. So 11 times they use the M-word for a little person in the show. Sorry, go on.
No, you're fine. I was curious. I'm like, maybe they're going to talk about it later.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm just like loving all the animals here, but the camera shots with the parrot looking into the camera, it is so funny because the bird just gets closer and closer, and like they
Yeah.
stay on this bird for so long, but I loved it.
If you can picture it, if you're listening to us right now, like you can see the match in the background, but it's a little bit blurry. And Frankie, the macaw, is in the foreground, kind of to the side, looking at the camera and like just inching closer and closer to
Here.
it. It is so much fun to just watch that bird for however long he was on camera.
I'm doing an impression of it right now. Only
What's
I'm
that?
a big. I said I was doing an impression of it right now
Oh.
because I got real close to the camera. I was just looking into it because his beak and like the bird just kept getting closer and closer. And they did it like 3 or 4 times, but I was loving it. I'm okay with it.
No, that's great. Now, here's a question. If Coco Beware didn't have Frankie, would they still call him the Birdman? Because that's not an intimidating or even like sensical name.
I would think not. Like,
I would think not too.
obviously, I feel like he got this bird because he was like, "Oh, Jake the snake, he's a big deal because he's got a snake." And so he went to the pet store. He's like, "Man, all the snakes are sold out. Fine, I'll take this bird."
It could be. It could be. Now, this is a real short match here, just over 3.5 minutes. Butch Reed, he reversed a crossbody into a pin. Now, after the match, Butch Reed's manager, Slick, starts whacking Coco with the cane. But Tito Santana, of all people, runs in to make the save. So could see a little bit of a partnership there. Fun fact, Slick, who was Butch Reed's manager of this match, he's the adopted son of Rufus R. Jones, who we saw on one of our Starcade episodes. It might have been like the first Starcade or second one. Yeah, that's how they're kind of related.
Incest, man. I'm telling you, this whole industry, everyone's related somehow. Well, dang. Well, let's get into the really cool singles match on this show. It was for the WWF Intercontinental Championship, and it was Randy Savage, who was the champion, versus Ricky Steamboat. But guess what, Justin? I'm the Wrestle Stats guy right now because we got some rematch stats. So times we've seen this match on pay-per-view, twice. Last time we saw this match on pay-per-view was at WWF's The Wrestling Classic. Oh, I miss Susan. No, I miss her.
No.
I say no all the time now. Like Mark will ask me a question, I'm like, no, and it makes him laugh every time. So title stats, we've seen this 3 times be defended on a pay-per-view so far. And the last time we saw this title defended on a pay-per-view was WrestleMania 2. So yeah, this feud started when these two were supposed to face each other for the Intercontinental Championship, but Savage attacked Steamboat, injuring his throat. What a weird injury, right? This led to a 6-month feud where the two faced each other countless times on like house shows, and that was kind of culminating in what many people call the greatest match of all time here on WrestleMania 3. So that's why I'm excited to talk about it. And just FYI, a doctor, I thought this was funny. A doctor kind of came on the screen and was like, he's amazed at Ricky's ability to wrestle. And like this doctor, he was just very giant and muscular, and he didn't speak so well. And so you could obviously tell it was like this wrestler trying to like shoot a shot into the business. It was funny. I'm like, y'all couldn't find a more convincing looking doctor. Come on now. But this is the first time we've seen a rematch on a WWF pay-per-view. I know in your weekly stats, you cover like rematch percentages and stuff like that. It's fun to look at. So go to Wrestle Stats. Go look at that. Participants, Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, who we last saw on WrestleMania 2.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, what are we going to say about this match that hasn't been said already? This thing has been documented and studied and shown to wrestlers saying, do this. I mean, it was the first match of its kind. And there's something so nostalgic during the entrances about seeing that shot of Savage and Elizabeth entering on that ring cart, just kind of like floating above the crowd. And it's just something that I just watched and went, oh boy, there's like some of my childhood there that I watch that and I go, oh boy. It was so good.
Comfort show. You know, like people watch their old comfort shows. Mine's Beverly Hills 90210. Yours are old wrestling matches.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Well, speaking of entrances, guess who's back? Mr. George Steele. And at first I thought like, oh, good. He's wearing a shirt. I think. I couldn't tell. And then, nope, he takes it off. In all of his hairy glory. Warf!
Warf! By the way, I tried to find that clip to post it on our Twitter. You can't find it.
You can't. Maybe just go on Paramount Plus and watch the episode and like film it on your phone or something.
Right.
Because you can't screen record on your phone, but I can film my TV. I can get around
That's
that
true.
Paramount Plus. But the selling and the pacing of this match, Justin, it was fantastic.
It's just so good. And, you know, we mentioned last week on our Starrcade review that calling the match of the ring was kind of the standard thing. But Randy Savage, he was notorious for wanting everything planned out in his matches. So he and Ricky, they planned this match move for move for months. So it even got to the point where one of them could say a number like 82, and then the other one could say what number or what move was at that number in the match. Like that's how much they planned this out and talked about it and studied it and worked on it.
That would stress me out because like my memory is these days. And so like, wow, I didn't even know that. Well,
yeah.
I just want to talk about this one move and it might be kind of hard, like, you know, if you don't just see it, but I'm going to do my best. So Randy throws Ricky over the top rope, but Ricky grabs onto the top rope and flips over with his feet almost touching the floor. Kind of like when someone gets out of the Royal Rumble and they're kind of struggling, you know, with their feet. But oh my gosh, Ricky uses this massive core strength and just flips his body back over the ropes, holding on the entire time.
Yeah, skin the cat.
Crap. Like skin the cat? That's what that's called?
Yeah.
That was incredible. Do you know how much like strength that takes to be able to do that?
Well, and it's one thing if it's like a stationary metal pole or something. Yeah. This is a rope that has give. Like that's insane. Every time I see somebody do that, I can't believe it. Mm-hmm. But and you know, in this match, Ricky is not like Mr. Nice Guy Ricky. I mean, he is, if you watch him, his work, it's much more aggressive and he's much more fired up. He's getting in there and not being just the completely clean good guy here. It's fun to watch.
I noticed that because you know what? He didn't fold his robe this week. He just threw it. That's how I knew he meant business now, Justin.
That's right.
Well, there were so many near falls back to back. Hebner's arm must have been like numb as hell. Like he was just,
and I think that's why this match is so celebrated because we're used to matches now that have 1,000 false finishes. It's almost a hallmark of a main event match these days, especially on pay-per-view. But this was the first match to really do a bunch of false finishes in a way that made sense to the story of the match. Like these are two young, fired up guys locked in this feud who are so evenly matched that they can't hold each other down for 3 seconds. It was just, again, perfect.
It was perfect. So Savage steals the bell from the timekeeper to take out Ricky because, you know, that's what he had used when he did the whole throat thing. But Mr. Harry George saves him twice. Saves Ricky twice, that is. And, you know, as we know from seeing the clip before, Savage really rung Ricky's bell. Get it? He has the bell.
How are you not a dad after that joke?
I know, right?
So, of course, Ricky wins. He gets the championship in about 14 and a half minutes. He's a new Intercontinental Champion. But we talked about the entrances. The final shot of this segment, Randy and Elizabeth on the cart, Elizabeth looking worried, and Randy hiding his head in shame. And it's just the camera stays by the ring looking up the aisle as their ring cart just slowly fades off into the backstage area. It was cinematic. It was so
Cinema.
good. It's so good.
A lot of people overuse cinema. That was cinema right there.
Yeah.
I just, at that point, I wondered, so is the cart remote controlled? Like, is there a little guy driving it?
No,
or...
you can see him on like wide shots.
That's right.
You can
they're
see
like
the guy
it.
sitting behind it, like driving it.
I did see that at one point, and I was like, that's goofy. They probably didn't need to, because I thought it was this magical cart just driving itself. Like, it was pretty cool, but yeah.
There's actually a guy underneath it, like pushing it along, just like, you know. Yeah.
I just had a horrible thought, but I can't say
boy.
it. I was going to say it was all the little guys from the earlier match.
Oh, boy. At Michelle Taylor.
So was this one of the GOAT matches for you, Justin? Do you think this is the best wrestling match of all time?
I don't know that I could ever say anything was the best one of all time. I mean, I have my favorites. This was about 4 or so years before I actually became a full-time fan. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things that without the network or without the VHS, you just heard about. And then I finally watched it and I got it. It was like, oh, this sets up a new style of match. And it sets up a new template to have a match by. And for that reason, it's revolutionary match.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just looking at it and thinking like, was this the best wrestling I've ever seen in my life? Like, no, because wrestling has evolved so much in like 40 years that, this caliber of match is a random night on Raw or Dynamite, but for what it did, and it started a new style and started really that fast-paced style, because we don't see a lot of it. And I find myself in all these old pay-per-views that the fast-paced style are my favorite matches because they're just more exciting. You see these slow match to match to match, and then you see something different. And so I think it definitely was, one that really set a precedent and then changed wrestling for history. So yeah, it definitely was one of the greatest of all time. But great match. I knew what it was coming up, so I was really excited. And it was the longest match of the night so far. It was 14 minutes and 35 seconds, and it did not feel like that at all.
Yeah, which is amazing when you think about the main event on Bash at Berlin yesterday. Gunther versus Randy Orton, I think clocked in at about 31 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can pack so much into such a tighter amount of time.
I feel like wrestlers have to be, because back in these older pay-per-views, we see, kind of guys with dad bods and they're kind of chubby and stuff. But now I feel like they have to be so fit, because do you know how hard it is to go in a wrestling ring for 30 minutes? That is like peak performance of the human body. Like, that is hard. Yeah. And so that's why everyone's so buff now, because the standard has been raised. That bar has been raised. But backstage, we get Mean Gene, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Alice Cooper. Oh my gosh, he popped up and I was so excited. I did not know he was going to be on this. You know what? This is his hometown that we're in, Detroit. And he claims that this is the hometown of heavy metal. Now, I guess that's just because of all the, car manufacturing in Detroit.
Oh, boy.
Heavy metal.
Boy.
I'm a dad. Of course, we get some general, I'm going to beat Honky Tonk Man chat, followed by, going with the camera to Honky Tonk Man, who said, he just says he's going to sing and dance. He doesn't say like, I'm going to beat Jake the Snake. He's like, I'm going to sing and dance. And he's like gyrating like Elvis.
Yeah. I mean, and that's about the thing he was most talented at. Anyway.
Justin B. Tate, everyone. Justin B. Tate. See, I got to get you.
Go ahead. Yeah. All you big Honky Tonk Man fans, go ahead.
It's like Disco Inferno.
Yeah, right. It's the Honky Tonk Man versus Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, this match is happening because the Honky Tonk Man had been a guest on Jake Roberts' interview segment, The Snake Pit, and Honky smashed a guitar over Jake Roberts' head, legitimately injuring Jake Roberts' neck. So he had to go away and kind of get that, fixed or relaxed at least. And the attack turned Roberts into a good guy. So that's what led into this match.
Those guitar shots, Justin, they're insane to me. At All In, Jeff Jarrett obliterated a guitar on Hangman's head. And I screamed at the TV. I was like, oh my God. And so those guitars, they're like obviously gimmicked, right?
For the most part, yeah. For
I
the
mean,
most
maybe
part.
that one with Jake the Snake wasn't, and that's why it hurt his neck, and that's why they started gimmicking them. But I just that I know it's like light, but on the head, it kills me every time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've seen Jake Roberts before. In fact, we just saw him at last year's WrestleMania. Honky Tonk Man, we haven't seen before on Wrestle Recap. So he's still with us today at the age of 71 years old. His last match that we know of, 2019 in Louisiana at an independent show. Some people know this, some people don't. But the Honky Tonk Man is the legitimate real-life cousin of Jerry the King Lawler. Now, I don't know that they're particularly close, but there is a relationship there. Now, he was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history until Gunther broke that record last year to now become the longest title holder for the IC belt. And the Honky Tonk Man inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2019. So let's get into the match.
Yeah, they didn't even wait for the bell. They just went right in. Have we seen that yet? Like,
I'm not sure.
I
I'm
don't
not
feel
sure.
like we have. I mean, yeah, they just went for it.
Yeah, Honky was up on the apron, doing his thing, and Jake just attacks him from behind. Now, unfortunately, that's when we got our least favorite Gorillaism, that he was Pearl Harbored. But take the good with the bad, I guess. Sure.
So, well, I couldn't tell the whole time if Alice was like truly frowning or if it's just those lines he drew on his face, but he did not look happy. He just looks mad and sad. But fun fact, Alice was 39 years old here. And I mean, he looked like I could look at it and be like, okay, he's 39. But the reason why I looked it up is because he looks the same as he does now. I was like, that was 40 years ago, and he looks the exact same.
It is funny now, though, to like see him playing in some like celebrity golf tournament. You're watching like Alice Cooper in like a baseball cap and a golf shirt hitting a golf ball. It's very odd.
I guess it's the guy liner or something, but like his face looks the same. He's on, he gets booked on a lot of horror conventions that I go to.
Oh,
and
wow.
So yeah, I had to look up how old he was because I was thinking, wait, was he old back then too?
Are any of those conventions in Milwaukee, or as it's pronounced, Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land?
What does that mean?
It's a Wayne's World reference for
Oh my
for
God,
all my
Justin.
favorite 90s kids. There you go.
I watched Wayne's World for the first time as an adult, probably like 2 or 3 months ago. That movie's not funny. Like it's not funny. And I have quoted it my whole life, not because I watched it, but because I listened to you. And there were so many things as I was watching the movie that I was like, that's what Justin used to say. That's where he got that. But like, I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie's not funny. Like I watch Coneheads. That movie makes me laugh so hard. But I don't understand. I think it was just that weird, stupid 90s humor that I just missed by a hair by being born in 90. That movie's not funny, Justin.
Spew into this.
And he's not funny. Garth. I was like, he is annoying me. Y'all, I'm gonna get so many angry like tweets and texts because of this. I respect it. I am glad that other people find it funny. I understand why it was iconic. I expected to laugh the entire time. The whole time I was like, this is annoying.
Each his own. But back to the match. Lots of trash in the ring, which not cool. But you know what else is in the ring? The snake bag. Mm-hmm. And it moved. And as I said last week, when the snake bag moves, I crap.
I don't crap. I hate it because I always feel bad for the snake because I feel like they do not handle him properly.
Probably not.
No, I don't know. You know me, animal. They need to just have the snake perched up and zoom in on him like they did Frankie the bird. The snake needs to look into the camera, but okay, I know you don't like him, but the shake, rattle, and roll is a very underappreciated, underutilized move. That was funny. Don't you roll your eyes at me, Justin Tate. You like Wayne's World. So
yeah, okay, but look, commentary spent like half the match pointing out all of Honky Tonk Man's mistakes. They're like, I wouldn't have done that. Oh, he made a mistake. It was like, I get he's the bad guy, but like, ease up on him a little bit. He was getting a little bit brutal.
I mean, it was brutal, but this really bothered me. So let me tell you what happened because this was kind of on him. So Honky Tonk pinned Jake the Snake and he used the ropes for leverage, right? Only the leverage wasn't there. It was backwards.
Yes.
So he's like kind of standing. Is he on like the turnbuckle and the ropes and he's holding onto the ropes leaned forward to pin Jake? Is
Right.
that what was happening? Okay, yeah. So he would the way he was hanging, that would only give him leverage to pull himself up, not to put more
Right.
pressure on on Jake during the pin. So the ropes had no ability to even help him. It was
But
silly.
and it's not often that we see something with ropes like actually make sense. It's like
Yeah.
when Ric Flair would have the figure four on somebody and then he'd grab the ropes behind the referee's back and it was like,
How
it's
does
a
that
move
help?
on his legs. Like
Mhm.
what, how would that matter? But it's just one of those wrestling logic things that we just kind of like shooting somebody off the ropes. Nobody's going to bounce and keep running, but we say it's okay.
Right. Well, I'm glad you noticed that too, because I was like, hold
Yeah.
up, that wouldn't work.
Yeah. So after the match, which Honky Tonk Man does win in about 7 minutes, Jake swings the guitar at Honky's head, but smashes the guitar against the ring post. And then Honky, he hightails it out of there. He's gone up the aisle, doesn't wait for the ring cart. He's gone. But that leaves Jimmy Hart in the ring to fend for himself. So Jake holds Jimmy in like a loose kind of full Nelson and tells Alice Cooper to go get Damien out of the bag. And Jimmy, I felt bad for him here because he looked like legitimately scared
He
that this
did.
snake is about to be close to him. And he's letting out like these little womanly screams.
It was funny. And that was the thing is I was like, is he a really good actor? Is he really this terrified?
It seemed real. If not, then hats off to him. But Jake throws Jimmy down on the mat, and Alice throws that snake on top of him. And Jimmy, fast as hell, gets his little 100-pound ass out of there and goes hightailing it up the aisle. He meets up with Honky Tonk Man, and then Jake and Alice, they celebrate in the ring with the snake, and we get that iconic shot that we see in all the montages of Jake Roberts looking at the hard camera and just pointing at it. And it's like, that's why Jake was so good. Like he didn't have to yell. He didn't have to make all these promises and threats and I'm going to rip your head off. He just had to be cold ass Jake Roberts.
I'm so curious, like, what things are happening now that in 20 years we'll be like, oh, that's a nostalgia moment.
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I've got a question. I might know the answer to this, but were the commentators just kind of trolling Alice Cooper because like they were like, you can tell he's been in the weight room. Look at those arms because Alice was so skinny. And I don't know if it's because I was just looking at all these wrestlers. Then he comes out and he's got he didn't wear a tasteful pantsuit like Ozzy Osbourne. He had like the vest and everything, and his little arms were so skinny, but they were talking about how buff he looked. I was like, they're trolling, right?
Isn't that so funny how like Alice Cooper was made this whole career being this scary, intimidating dude, and parents didn't want their kids listening to Alice Cooper. And then you see him next to a wrestler and you're like, oh, that poor little man. Is he okay? Is he lost?
I was like, does he need a sandwich? He looks malnourished a little bit.
So after the match, Howard Finkel is in the ring. He brings in Mean Gene to announce that they have set a world indoor attendance record, announces the fake attendance that we talked about earlier and that WWE still talks about, although I feel like they've kind of stepped away from that a little bit. And Gorilla confirms it is a happening.
It is a happening. Well, I mean, regardless of the true number, it was still, I mean, a feat. Like it was, it was
70-something thousand people is nothing to sneeze at.
Exactly. At you. Tag team match: the Killer Bees versus the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. He's one of those offs that I just get confused these days. So let's talk about the Bees a little bit. We've got B. Brian Blair. He was actually in WrestleMania 2 in that Battle Royal. Again, I just couldn't really there were so many people that you couldn't really, the only one I really zoomed in on was Bret Hart in that. But he was born in 1957. He's age 67 today, still hopping, still around. His last match was in 2019, just a few years ago in Waterloo, Iowa. Waterloo claimed he had been promised the WWF Tag Team Championship by Vince McMahon, but it never happened. I'm going to believe you, B. Brian Blair. Gonna believe you on that one. After wrestling, he became a county commissioner for Hillsborough County, Florida.
All these
And
politicians, man.
is weird. They just get elected. It's weird. Released a autobiography in 2021 called Truth Be Told.
Look at that. That was probably one of your dad jokes.
Probably. So we've
Yeah.
got Jim Brunzell, last seen in the Battle Royal in WrestleMania 2. From here on out, if there's a wrestler that we haven't talked about yet, he was in that Battle Royal, just so you know. He is 75 years old today, and he debuted in 1972, but had his last match in 2000 at an indie show in Minnesota. But he trained alongside Ric Flair and the Iron Sheik, so he's legit. After wrestling, he went into a long career just in sales. Like, how do you go back to a regular old job like that?
I don't know. Like, you must be truly, truly done with the wrestling business. Almost like viewing it as, well, that was a job that I used to work there and now I work somewhere else.
But you know what, Justin? I think I'm the same way because like I was on Ghost Hunters Academy and on Ghost Hunters, and now like I'm a podcaster, but I do have like a day job. But that's the thing is I don't have any interest to go back.
Sometimes
I got
you're just
offered
done.
a spot on one of the shows just like 3 or 4 months ago, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't know. So maybe you do it, and that's your stage of life that you get that done and you get it out of your system and you're done. So I can respect that. I get that. But yeah, he still pops up on the convention circuit along with Brian B. Blair. Hopefully they'll be at Squared Circle Expo, where Justin and I will have a table with Wrestle Recap and Wrestle Stats and handing out presents to all you lovely listeners. But
we're not going to stop talking about that until April when it happens.
Y'all better come see us. We bought a table. We obviously saw the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov at WrestleMania 2, so not going to talk about them. But man, people started throwing stuff in the ring during the Soviet national anthem, and that started it. Basically, people did not stop throwing stuff through the end of the show.
They kicked it off. It's like when somebody goes to the bathroom on an airplane, and then all of a sudden 100 people on the airplane have to go to the bathroom.
Yes,
you ever notice that?
I noticed that yesterday. Have you ever noticed it's men? Like men, for every woman that uses an airplane bathroom, there's about 10 men. And I was actually having that thought in my head. I was like, why do women not like to use it? Probably because we think they're gross. So we're like, I'd rather just hold it.
Yeah.
And men are like, don't care.
Every part of an airplane is gross. Like, don't touch anything in an airplane.
You're right on that. Well, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he came out in his America wear. He had to interrupt that anthem, and he states that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and the crowd goes wild. America, man.
It's amazing that a guy like Duggan, who never won a single championship in the WWF, was so beloved by fans for years, just mainly because he carried around a 2x4 all the time and yelled, "Oh, USA!" And that did it. Sometimes that's all you need.
I loved how it was like this big 2x4 and then a tiny little flag on the end.
Yeah. He added something for this show, a little something special.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Killer Bees, Justin, that's a dumb name. Like, that sounds like the name of like an 8-year-old soccer team. Like, let's go Killer Bees. That's dumb, right?
I'm kind of surprised Vince didn't make them wear little stingers on the back of their trunks, like just to complete it.
Funny. Like, I would have been okay with that, but I'm surprised too.
Now, speaking of gear, Iron Sheik, he was wearing those 90s rapper shorts again, like those black denim airbrush shorts. It doesn't fit him. I don't understand.
It's like he had like everyone got like their budget, like they had like an allotment, and he just wanted to like keep the money. So he's like, I'll just wear last year's gig. But I don't know. But I noticed that. But you know, if the Killer Bees, if they were a faction today, I would demand that their entrance music be I'm a bee, I'm a bee, I'm a, and they're all pointing to themselves, I'm a bee. Like that would be such a missed opportunity. Too bad the Black Eyed Peas didn't exist.
Maybe what's the buzz? Tell me what's happening.
Justin, no one knows Jesus Christ Superstar except for us. We grew up in theater.
All right. Sorry.
Golly. Well, sorry, my nose itches. One of the bees, because honestly, I don't know which one is which. One of the bees gets up on the turnbuckle and he started like flapping his wings really, really fast. And I about lost it. And I have learned I love gimmicky wrestling. Like the things most people hate, like the zombie match a few years ago. Like I freaking love that crap. I about lost it when he was flapping his wings real fast.
Jeez.
I thought it was funny. Well, okay, this is gonna make you upset, but this was the match that I was like, I'm really over these gorilla-isms.
I can,
Because
I can
maybe
see it, but I think I just see it differently because it's when I was a kid. He was the main commentator when I was a kid, so it was like it just brings me back.
yeah, I think maybe now that I'm just aware of them, it's like I'm passively listening, then I hear one of them and it like jolts my head or like my brain. I'm
Right.
like, the gorillism. And so now I'm just getting annoyed by them.
Yeah.
But the bees, they hit this double head toss on the Iron Sheik. Oh, that looked awesome, man. Like he got some
they were a
air.
good team.
Yeah, they're really good. And like, I'm sorry, Killer Bees. I just don't like your name, but that's fine. But it ends in a DQ because Jim Duggan took out the Iron Sheik with his 2x4 with the tiny flag.
And it was so dumb because after the match, like the bad guys have left and Duggan grabs the microphone and he says, Nikolai, Sheik, if you guys don't want to play by the rules, we don't either. But they were playing by the rules. Like Sheik had a legitimate submission hold on Jim Brunzell, the camel clutch, and Duggan caused the DQ by not playing by the rules. But America, yay! That's all that matters, as I was saying.
Hey, America, if you got American flag pants on, you own the world, man. Well,
yeah, apparently.
As we said, the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov win via DQ in 5 minutes and 44 seconds. So we go back. Yeah,
now we start heading towards the good stuff, the main event of the show.
We do. We go backstage with Andre the Giant and Bobby Heenan. And Andre says that he will leave tonight with the belt around his waist, but how's it gonna fit?
Yeah. Well, the following year, Belt Nerd talking here, the WWF actually had a championship belt made just for Andre, which was a duplicate of Hogan's title, but just with a much longer strap. And in fact, there's some foreign websites that offer like knockoff replicas of belts that still have like the WWF logo on them, and they make an Andre belt.
Weird.
Yeah.
Huh, like even today?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So after a video package kind of showing the buildup to this match, Mean Gene interviews Hogan backstage. And so the Hulkster, he says that tonight the whole earth is gonna shake and it won't harm the people inside the Silver Dome or the people outside the Silver Dome or the people around the world. So who does that leave?
Neil Armstrong, he's probably up there in space. Still, he's not going to feel a thing. I don't know. I have no idea.
He's all about that Hulkamania right now. And I'm just like, oh, like,
that's the thing is like, he didn't have to make sense at that time. It didn't matter. Like he was there and that was enough.
There are two things I don't understand because of when I was born. One is Wayne's World and the other is why Hulk Hogan was so over. I get it. I get that it was like an aura thing. Maybe it's just knowing what I know now. I don't know. But take me to the match, Justin. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it. The main event of the night, singles match, WWF World Heavyweight Championship, Andre the Giant versus the champion, Hulk Hogan. Now, this is the third time that we've seen the WWF Championship defended on pay-per-view. Last time was WrestleMania 2. Now, these two, they have been portrayed as friends on WWF weekly TV, but there started being hints that Andre was kind of getting jealous of Hulk. So finally, during an installment of Roddy Piper's Pit interview segment, Hulk Hogan was interrupted by Andre, who came out with his new manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Such a horrible turncoat move, right? So Hogan tries to reason with him and says, please, Andre, don't do this. And you don't want this match. And I don't want to face my friend. Andre attacks Hulk, rips off his shirt and his crucifix, sets up this match. And this is the match which is largely credited with kicking off the major wrestling boom of the 1980s. Amazing thing. Not a great match in and of itself, but it's the spectacle of it all. Both Andre and Hogan last seen last year at WrestleMania 2. Now, we get in the match. Bob Euchre, he's the guest ring announcer. He gets in there and announces Mary Hart is the guest timekeeper. She takes off her shoes to get into the ring. And these weren't the days when the canvas was changed out after every match. So she is walking in bare feet on every bit of sweat and blood and spit and whatever else was in that ring. Gross.
Very gross. And also, girl, you got to be able to walk in those heels. If you can't get in a ring in those heels, don't wear them. That's my womanly tip.
Amen, sister. She also, for some reason, touches the turnbuckle pads. Jesse says, I hope she don't bite one like George the Animal Steel. That was kind of funny.
Well, I wonder if the little pieces would get in her back hair too.
Ew. Don't even think about that. She probably has hairspray in that too.
Ew, yuck.
One thing that I love is Andre and Bobby Heenan are riding the ring cart down the aisle. Heenan looks nervous. Like he looks like he's completely consumed with Andre winning. And Andre even like says something to him and Heenan's kind of like, yeah. Like he looks nervous. And I kind of love that, even if it wasn't intentional.
No, I agree with you. And I think it was intentional. Sorry, my dog is barking. Child in my front yard probably. But yeah, I think it was intentional. I think it was part of the story.
Maybe
I
just annoyed at all the trash being thrown at him. I don't know.
Probably because that did not. I want to know like how they got that to stop going forward through the years because that doesn't happen now.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Kicking people out, I don't know. But and the ring cart with Andre and Bobby on it is also moving slower than the rest of them have been. Do you think that was intentional?
I think it was just the weight, man. Those little wheels were working hard. The little man driving it behind him, he was just like, "Oh, come on, push it." Maybe the charge was running out at the end of the night. He's on like 10% battery, so
maybe so. Yeah,
yeah. But hey, like Roddy, Hulk did not use the ring cart. Thank goodness.
He did not.
I mean, it's almost like the guys who were the really big stars didn't want to because they wanted that long entrance and they wanted that kind of fan interaction.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe so. It could be. It was a much better visual, Hulk coming down and doing it himself though. But boy, Hulk, skin wise, he is dark here. Like it's not even orange. Like if he were a crayon, he'd be burnt sienna.
Like, I loved burnt sienna. Yeah.
Like, he is dark, but they get into the ring and the bell rings and they do the face off, face to face, which we've seen in so many montages. And it's so interesting to watch because Hulk is fired up and he's shaking and he's saying stuff to Andre. And Andre just stands there, like looking down at Hogan, completely expressionless. And it was perfect. You wouldn't want Andre saying stuff back.
Yeah, it would be unnatural for him to say stuff back. And it's almost like, look at my size. I don't have to talk.
Yeah. By doing nothing, he became more of a badass.
Definitely. And I've got a question, and I almost wanted to like Google this and see if I'm alone on this. The very first pinfall attempt, it was Andre over Hulk. I swear that was a 3 count.
Really?
And
I did not notice that.
I thought it, and I didn't like say anything. And then Mark was like, that was a 3 count, wasn't it? And so I don't know if maybe, because sometimes I see refs do this more at indie shows than on TV, where when they go down to hit the ring, they kind of make a slap noise when they go down.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds like 3, but I don't know. I didn't know if I was the only one that caught that or not.
Well, and Hulk probably wishes it was, honestly.
Yeah,
because
right?
He's told so many lies about this match that like, he didn't know if Andre would take the pin or allowed himself to be slammed, or Hogan tore muscles in his back on the body slam. And that he literally said Andre died not long after this match. It was years later.
Wasn't it like 6 or 7 years later?
Yeah. So, I mean, the only thing somewhat verifiable, which I think you can kind of see during the match, is that Andre is wearing a back brace under his singlet in this match. You can kind of faintly see the outline. It would make sense because Andre's health was starting to not get great around this time.
Well, and he's just so big. Like you need something to support holding all of that up. But Andre, he like kept headbutting. He headbutted Hulk Hogan, and then I think he gets the turnbuckle at some point, or like the ring post. But goodness, like that brow bone, can you imagine how much that would hurt? It's just like solid.
Yeah. Like he tags you for real. You're gonna feel it. But yeah, I mean, speaking of headbutts, Hogan ramming Andre's head into the turnbuckle 10 times, and of course the crowd counts along 1, 2, 3. They still do that today. Crowds do. They count along with things like that, or the 10 punches in the corner, which makes me wonder, like, where exactly did that start, and why does it endure, and why was 10 the agreed upon number? You know, it's a thing that we just see and we just take for granted now. But you would think, like, if it was happening to you 10 times on number like 3 or 4, you'd go, I think I'm recognizing a pattern here. I can probably get out of this and don't have to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you asked where it started. I guess it started here. I mean, in the beginning, I think anything with audience interaction, kind of like the woo, like that went from just like a Flair thing to like everybody thing. I think it's just any way for the audience to get involved, and it's actually good because it keeps them paying attention because they want to be involved. But yo, this was the longest bear hug ever in this match. And I mean way too long. Like I had the point where I thought, okay, this is way too long. And then it kept going. I was like, this is way too long. But Hulk really was turning purple at the end. How'd he do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he didn't have far to go considering the color he was already at.
God, right.
But another gorillaism during this bear hug, Hogan is guts personified.
What does that even mean, gorilla? I'm tired of this. It doesn't even mean anything.
Well, but you know what? At one point in the bear hug, I thought that Hogan's leg was bleeding, like on his upper leg. And then I realized it was just sweat. But he's so dark that like the sweat looked like blood coming down. Like that, I'm telling you, it is inhuman how dark he was here. But and another thing during this match about Hogan, this is not a new take. So I'm not going to claim this at all. Hogan's a heel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hogan is a heel. I mean, if you watch during this match, he goes to the outside and pulls the mat back so he can do a pile driver on Andre, which ends up getting reversed into a very crappy flip. But Hogan, we will see him over the years on these pay-per-views do things that it's like, that's a heel move. And Bobby Heenan would even call him out on it for years until Hogan actually did turn heel in WCW. But just a thought. We'll just be able to look at
that's why I didn't understand why he was so over, because I always saw him doing heel things. And like when I think of Hulk Hogan, even now, like watching these, I don't think, oh yeah, he's totally the baby face. Like he's just kind of there. It's more like an MJF thing where he's such a good heel that everyone loves him. So yeah, I guess I've never really like consciously put that thought into, oh, he's a face, but he does a lot of heel things.
Yeah. Well, finally they go back in the ring. We've all seen it. Andre gets knocked off his feet. Leg drop, 1, 2, 3. Crowd goes nuts. Andre and Bobby ride back up the aisle. Bobby hiding his face in shame. I love it. I don't know that Bobby Heenan ever did anything I didn't like. But Hogan wins, retains his championship in just 12:01. We've seen the clips. We've seen the slam. What do you think about the match overall?
I thought it was way better than last year's. Just the whole, the star power behind it was obviously just like unmatched. But I liked it. I thought I was shocked Andre was able to go 12 minutes because, you know, that's a big body to move around for 12 minutes.
Well, half of it was spent in that bear hug. So, you know.
That's true. That was, golly, that needs to be like an episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the bear hug. And we just talk about everything that happened in that 12 minutes. But I liked it. What'd you think?
Okay match, not great, but it was there for the spectacle and for the moments, not for some technical masterpiece, you know.
Right.
But after the match, go back to commentary where Jesse is once again mouthing the words that Gorilla is saying. And then we get a photo montage of different things that happened on the show tonight, different moments from the show, set to the sounds of Aretha Franklin singing America the Beautiful, which kicked off the night. Felt really patriotic, you know. America, great land. It's a land where a giant bald man can crush little people and not suffer any consequences. It's a land where a white man dressed as a king can force a black man to bow to him.
Oh my God.
America, a land where a flamboyant man can go through the horror of getting his head shaved while thousands of people shout homophobic slurs at him. Where in one show, people can cheer for a bulldog, a snake, a bird, and 2 killer bees.
Yes.
And America is a land where a 7-foot-plus giant can be defeated by a trembling hot dog with arms and legs. America, everybody. Give it up.
That was the best
Give it
promo
up.
you've ever done, Justin.
So let's talk about real quick what happened after this pay-per-view.
Yes. So Tom Zink left the WWE over a pay dispute. Sensing a pattern here. Leaving Rick Martel without a tag team partner. He eventually joined Tito Santana to form a new tag team called the Strike Force. Later this year, Bob Orton was fired from the WWF after getting arrested for causing a disturbance at the Calgary airport.
How can you get in a fight in Calgary? Come on, they're Canadian. They're nice.
Where does Bob go after WWF? Does he go to NWA? Oh my gosh. I can't wait to see this. Okay. The magnificent Muraco would become a good guy using superstar Billy Graham as his manager and changing his name to The Rock, Don Muraco.
Yeah.
Harley Race spent the rest of the year feuding with Hulk Hogan and Hacksaw America Jim Duggan. Greg Valentine left the company over a disagreement of storyline, but was brought back soon after. Unfortunately, his on-air opportunities were far fewer than they were before. He made Vince mad. That's what happened.
You don't do that.
Nope. After helping cut Adrian Adonis's hair on this show, Brutus Beefcake would become Brutus the Barber Beefcake, where he gained, the majority of his fame. The Rougeau brothers turned heel and would be known as the Fabulous Rougeaus. I like it. Roddy Piper took a 2-year hiatus from wrestling after this, so he could have time to film roles for the movies Hell Comes to Frogtown and They Live. There we go, Justin. That's when that was. Adrian Adonis left the WWF just about a month after this event, returning to AWA. Curious why he did that. I need to know the story. Tito Santana and his new tag team partner, Rick Martel, ended up winning the WWF Tag Team Championship. Good for them. I need Tito to get some wins. A couple months after this, Ricky Steamboat asked Vince McMahon for some time off to be with his wife, who was expecting their first child. And this upset Vince, who saw Ricky as a long-term Intercontinental Champion. So as punishment, he scheduled Ricky to lose the belt to Butch Reed, but Butch Reed no-showed the event. And so Ricky would lose the belt to the Honky Tonk Man instead, kicking off Honky Tonk Man's record-setting reign. Because, I guess you couldn't be like Roman Reigns and just show up to pay-per-views back then.
Right.
Wow, Vince, wow. Especially to Ricky, he was so nice. But
come on, it's Ricky Steamboat.
I know. Ricky just wanted to help his wife and make her dinner and stuff because he's so nice. Randy Savage started to get cheers from the fans, so he became a good guy, starting a feud with the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental Championship. Jake Roberts would also go on to feud with the Honky Tonk Man, who didn't at this point, and was originally scheduled to win the Intercontinental Championship. However, because of his neck injuries from that guitar shot that we talked about earlier, the plan got scrapped. Boo.
Yeah, and because of that whole plan changing, Jake Roberts never won gold in WWF, ever.
How disappointing. Isn't
that wild?
Yeah, well, this is kind of a fun one. Just a month or so after this show, the Iron Sheik was arrested after him and Jim Duggan were pulled over. Duggan was driving under the influence of marijuana, and Iron Sheik was under the influence of cocaine. And
I've heard of it.
Yep. He had some cocaine on him. So since the two were feuding at the time, the Iron Sheik was released, but was back with the company the following February. Yeah, I think. And then the whole Liv Morgan thing, she got caught and it was just like a joke in WWF. Yeah,
they're like, she had some weed.
I know. Yeah. Well, because of the Iron Sheik's release, Nikolai Volkov formed a new tag team with a new Russian, Boris Zukov, in late 1987. I don't need any more Russians. I can't get them straight. I'm sorry. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant would continue their feud throughout the year, leading us to the first ever Survivor Series pay-per-view in November and beyond. We still have it today. Exciting. Yeah. So, Justin, your final thoughts on WrestleMania 3, please.
Exactly what it needed to be. They needed a little bit of a comeback after WrestleMania 2, which was not as great as WrestleMania 1 by most accounts, and not as groundbreaking. WrestleMania 3 broke all the ground. It shattered everything from the previous 2 WrestleManias, from the Wrestling Classic. And like everybody says, this is the show that really put WWF on the map for good, I think.
Definitely. I fully agree with you. I think this was their best WrestleMania yet. I think, they did a great show for WrestleMania 1. 2 was a little, y'all are trying too hard. And this was kind of like the perfect blend. And
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really good show. Great pacing. And I think you said, like, in the very introduction when you were talking about the stadium, the arena, it was next level. And that's how I felt about this one. Like, this took it to the next level. And like, it is very clear that there's a big difference between this and NWA at this point.
Yeah.
Because just the grandiose, like, aura around this whole pay-per-view is just, off the charts. And so I really liked it. That Ricky Steamboat, I'm such a fan of his. That was probably my favorite match. Obviously, because that's like everyone's favorite match. But yeah, I thought it was way better than WrestleMania 2. And I mean, obviously going forward, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And so I'm excited to kind of see how they grow that.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some wrestle stats. What do you say?
You want a sound cue? I'm going to give it to you.
Oh,
And
Wrestle Stats.
there it is. Junkyard Dog and Randy Savage are now tied for the most matches on WWF pay-per-view at 6 matches each. And even though he won on this show tonight, Roddy Piper still has the most losses at 3. Now, we've only seen one rematch, like we talked about earlier. It was tonight, Savage versus Steamboat, meaning just 2% of the matches on pay-per-view are rematches. Another percentage, 2% of pay-per-view matches, 20% of pay-per-view matches have been title matches. And the 2 titles defended tonight, the WWF Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, have now been defended on pay-per-view the most, with 3 title matches each. And if you like stats like that, you should check out a little account called twitter.com/WrestleStats. I'll go ahead and say it now. The announcement's coming out tomorrow morning, but we're here. WrestleStats is actually going to go on a quick break in order to do a big revamp with really good looking, pretty visual stats, much more expanded too. So be on the lookout for that at twitter.com/WrestleStats. Where can they find Michelle?
Well, they can find Michelle at Twitter at Michelle Tater. That is my personal one, where I talk a lot about wrestling. I'd say like 50% of my tweets are wrestling related, but then the other stuff is like movies, nostalgia, and college football, which this is the time of year that I love, and I get feisty, everybody. But I also, Justin and I both run the at Wrestle Recap Twitter account, so you can talk to both of us there, or you can even go to Justin's personal Twitter. What is yours?
At Justin B. Tate.
Cool. Yeah. So that's where you can find us. Really talk to me about anything. Even if like you disagree with something I say, like I love to chat wrestling. Like as long as we keep it like respectful for one another, let's argue. I don't care. So yeah, hit us up.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
Now, next week's show, we're going to cover NWA Starrcade 1987. And this is where the war between WWF and NWA starts to get a little bit nasty with some pretty questionable but successful business tactics.
Oh my God, give me a hint.
It's Vince's fault.
I mean, isn't everything?
True.